So there I was, minding my own business, when suddenly the sky decided to play a video game announcement at me. Welcome to the National Survival Game, it said, all dramatic and sparkly. Basically, every country picks people to dump on wild islands, and everything gets live-streamed to billions of viewers. Oh, and if I die? My country loses 20 luck points. If luck drops below 10, my entire nation gets erased from existence. No pressure, right? Let me back up. 3 years ago, I woke up in this parallel universe, and before I could even figure out where the bathroom was, the apocalypse hit. Black storms froze the whole planet. Plants died. Animals died. The oceans turned into the world's biggest ice rink. I survived by hiding in a shelter eating what I can only describe as wallpaper paste mixed with sadness. 3 years of that slop. 3 years. So when they told me I was chosen for a deadly survival game on a monster-infested island, I literally laughed with joy. At least there'd be real food out here. Meanwhile, back in my livestream chat, my fans were having a meltdown. Why is our guy just standing there grinning like an idiot? They were losing it. The French contestant was already building a shelter, and I was just vibing. My viewer count nosedived from millions to like a few thousand. Embarrassing. Our country got 3 contestants. Me, a lady doctor named Lin Shui, and a fishing dude named Gang. Everyone was hyping up the fishing guy because, well, fish equals food equals not dying. The doctor got tens of millions of viewers. I got abandoned like last week's leftovers. Then Lin Shui opened her starter pack: tent, knife, flashlight, compressed biscuits, magnifying glass. Chat went absolutely wild. Queen. Legend. We're saved, she smiled, turned around, and a wolf jumped out of a bush and killed her in about 3 seconds flat. 5 minutes. The game had been running for 5 minutes. 20 luck points, gone. Our country's luck dropped from 75 to 55 just like that. The national TV host started stammering on live television. Lin Shui's parents were sobbing in their shelter. And death notifications kept rolling in from other countries too. Some American swimmer got chased off a cliff by a tiger. Some Japanese contestant stepped on a snake. It was a bloodbath out there. Meanwhile, Fishing Bro Gang grabbed his gear and smartly headed off to find water. Solid move. Respect. And me? I was still standing in the same spot, looking like a broken NPC to everyone watching. But here's the thing they didn't know. Something absolutely beautiful was happening inside my head. Ding. System loaded. Congratulations, you have obtained the God-level Grandmaster system. Every single thing I do can become a skill. And if I grind hard enough, any skill can reach God-tier level. The system even detected that I was breathing and went, congratulations. You have learned the passive skill, breathing. My cheat code had arrived, baby. Breathing is a skill. I'm not joking. My system literally went, hey, you're breathing. Congratulations, that's a skill now. Level 1 breathing. 20 experience points to level up. And guess what? I'm breathing all the time. So the XP just kept ticking up like a taxi meter in rush hour. Within minutes, ding, level 2 breathing. Your lung capacity has slightly increased. Could I feel it? Absolutely not. But math is math, baby. If breathing levels up every few minutes, and I breathe 24/7, then eventually my lungs are going to be bigger than a blue whale's. I'll be inhaling entire forests. Confidence level, through the roof. I stood up tall, threw my arms wide, and delivered the most dramatic speech in survival game history. From this moment forward, I declare this place Suhan's entertainment world. I came. I saw. I shall conquer. Survive? Sorry, but I'm here to dominate this entire planet. Back in the national broadcast studio, the host's jaw hit the floor. Chat was having a collective stroke. Bro, you haven't even opened your starter pack yet. Where is this confidence coming from? We literally just lost a teammate 5 minutes ago. Can you please keep it down? Someone splash water on this man. He's broken. Meanwhile, enemy nations were watching my stream and laughing their heads off, already plotting border raids because they thought my country was doomed. Real classy, guys. Anyway, I finally opened my starter pack. 5 items, a stainless steel pot, 50 meters of fishing line, an encyclopedia of every plant and animal in this world, a telescope, and an axe. Chat immediately declared me dead. No food, no fire, no shelter. It's over. But they didn't understand. That axe. That's not just a weapon. The sharp side chops, the flat side hammers. In the wilderness, an axe is basically a Swiss Army knife's bigger, scarier older brother. And that encyclopedia? It literally has pictures of every plant and animal here. What's poisonous? What's edible? What's medicinal? I basically got the strategy guide to this entire world. I hit the jackpot and nobody even realized it. I packed up my gear, strapped the axe to my waist, and started heading downhill. But first, I stuffed both my pockets full of little rocks. Then I just started chucking them. At trees. At the ground. At nothing in particular. Just yeet, 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 all the way down the mountain. The system was loving it. Ding, you have learned the passive skill, throwing, pebbles, level 1. Upgrades improve accuracy. Ding, you have learned the passive skill, walking, level 1. Upgrades reduce stamina consumption. So I threw even faster. Empty my pockets, scoop up more rocks, keep walking, keep throwing. Rinse and repeat. Back in the studio, the host turned to the survival expert next to her. Professor Lee, is there some deep strategy behind the rock throwing? The professor froze. He knew there was absolutely no strategy. I was just a guy throwing rocks. But millions of people were watching, and he couldn't just say, yeah, your last hope is an idiot playing fetch with himself, so he improvised. Yes, you see, he's clearly practicing his throwing accuracy. In the wild, precise stone throwing is incredibly valuable for hunting small animals. Rabbits, pheasants, squirrels. Chat ate it up. Ch, so that's what he's doing. Genius. But then some skeptics showed up. Are you sure? Because it really looks like he's just chucking rocks for fun. The whole chatroom split into two factions arguing about whether I was a tactical mastermind or a complete moron. This went on for an hour. The professor was sweating bullets on live TV. He'd made it all up to save face, and now millions of people were debating his fake theory. Then, thwack, a squirrel fell off a tree. I actually hit one. The professor nearly had a heart attack on camera. He'd only said squirrels as a random example, and I went and actually nailed one. Even I was a little surprised, honestly. But hey, when you've thrown about 400 rocks in an hour with a system tracking your accuracy gains, eventually something's got to connect. That squirrel didn't even see it coming. The little black fur ball dropped from the tree, and I sprinted over like my life depended on it. Which, technically, it did. Grabbed it by the head, gave it one quick twist, and snap. Lights out, Mr. Squirrel. Sorry, buddy, but your lunch now. About 1.5 pounds of fresh meat, sitting right in my hand. I grinned like a kid on his birthday. Well, that takes care of today's meal. Then the whole world heard it. A massive announcement blasted across every single live stream on the planet. Dragon Nation contestant Sue Han has hunted a squirrel using a stone. Resource return triggered. Congratulations, Dragon Nation receives 10,000 freshly dead squirrels. 10,000 squirrels from one kill. Back in the capital's shelter, 700 squirrels just materialized out of thin air onto the ground. People who hadn't tasted real meat in over 2 years started crying and hugging each other. The TV host was sobbing on camera. Chat was absolutely exploding. Who called him an idiot? Apologize to my boy Su Han right now. Anyone who talked trash doesn't get squirrel meat. You know who you are. And Professor Lee, the guy who made up that hole, he's practicing his throwing technique. Excuse? He accidentally became a genius. Chat was worshipping him. Professor Lee saw it all along. What a legend. What vision. The man sat there on live television pretending he'd predicted everything, nodding wisely while internally screaming, what is happening? Other countries. Oh, they were salty. Just pure vinegar running through their veins. Some were cursing at their screens. Others were telling us to surrender and become their slaves. Real mature guys. One squirrel, and suddenly everyone's got an attitude. But I wasn't done. See, here's the thing about squirrels in autumn. They hoard food for winter. If this chunky little guy was well fed, his nest had to be stuffed with goodies. I grabbed my axe and went to work on the tree. First swing, thunk, the system popped up. You have learned the passive skill, woodcutting. A few more solid chops and the tree crashed down. I reached into the hollow where the nest was and started pulling out handfuls of nuts. And more nuts. And more nuts. The viewers lost their minds. The squirrel's retirement savings. He just robbed IT's entire pension. That poor squirrel spent all autumn collecting those. Wait, That's like 6.5 pounds of nuts. 6.5 pounds, baby. After shelling, probably around 4 pounds of actual edible food. But I wasn't about to snack on these now. Winter was 2 months away, and when the blizzards hit, I wouldn't be able to hunt. These nuts were my emergency stash. I packed everything up and headed downhill. After winding through the forest for a while, I found a beautiful little stream. Crystal clear water flowing over a rocky bed. Looked perfect, but looking perfect gets people killed out here. Clear water means nothing if there's a rotting deer carcass upstream. So I hid my backpack under some rocks and hiked upstream to check the source. Chad appreciated that move. Apparently some Australian girl had left her stuff unattended to go for a swim, and monkeys stole literally everything she owned. Clothes included. She was now wandering around with nothing, and her stream was fully pixelated. The comments section was predictably disgusting. Anyway, I followed the stream all the way to its source, fresh spring water bubbling up between rocks. Clean as it gets. I let out a long breath of relief. Water source, secured. Now I just need to boil it. Look, could I probably drink this raw? Yeah, most likely. But I'm from a nation that has been boiling water for 5,000 years. You think I'm about to disrespect my ancestors by drinking it straight? Absolutely not. We're boiling it first. That's just tradition. No fire starter in my starter pack? No problem. I've got a brain and an axe, and that's all a man really needs. See, while everyone thought I was just mindlessly chucking rocks on my way downhill, I was also grabbing supplies, dry grass, a straight stick, a chunk of dead wood. Planning ahead is kind of my thing. Nobody noticed because, well, they were too busy arguing about whether I was a genius or a moron. Time for the bow drill method. The regular caveman, rub 2 sticks together, approach. That's for suckers who enjoy blisters and disappointment. The bow drill is the civilized way to be a caveman. You make a spindle, carve a fireboard, find a curved branch for the bow, and use a string to spin the whole thing. For the string, I just pulled the drawcord out of my hoodie. Fashion sacrifices must be made for survival. First attempt, pretty clunky, not gonna lie. My hands were awkward, the board was uneven, the tools were rough. But guess what was happening behind the scenes? Ding! You have learned the passive skill, fire by friction, level 1. Every stroke of the bow was feeding the system XP. Within minutes I went from, guy who has never done this before, to, guy who looks like he's been doing this his whole life. Level 2 popped, 5% bonus success rate. The first drill hole was a bust, but I just scooted the board over and tried again. Level 3 hit. Smoke started rising from the wood. I cranked up the speed. Smoke got thicker. The grass underneath started turning black. The second I saw enough heat build up, I scooped up that smoldering grass bundle, held it like a tiny burning baby, and blew gently into it. 1 breath. 2 breaths. 3. WHOMPH. Fire. We're in business, baby. I tossed on some dry branches and watched that beautiful flame grow into a proper campfire. Chef Suhan's kitchen was officially open. Back in the studio, the host nearly fell out of her chair. He already has fire? Quick, show me what the famous survival stars from England are doing. The screen split to show the legendary survival expert Ed, the guy famous for being hungry in every episode he's ever filmed. And what was he doing? Eating a raw snail. Just cracking the shell and slurping it down like the world's worst oyster, giving a little speech to the camera about protein content. Meanwhile, I'm over here with a campfire and a fat squirrel. The comparison was devastating. Chat turned into a war zone. The people who'd applied to emigrate to England were getting absolutely roasted. Your guy is eating raw snails, and you told us we were doomed. 30,000 people filed emigration papers this morning. How's that snail looking now, traitors? Some loyalists fired back. Well, our guy Bear got a lighter in his starter pack. Beat that, you caveman. But even that backfire got shut down immediately. Bear's whole thing is having a camera crew behind him. In actual solo survival, he couldn't outcook a microwave. Professor Lee was on a roll now. He'd gone from guy desperately making stuff up to the prophet who saw it all coming. He pointed out that I'd been collecting fire materials during the entire hike downhill, that everything I did was calculated in advance. For once, the man was actually right. Now, cooking time. I skinned my squirrel, chopped the meat into small pieces with the axe, and tossed it all into my steel pot. The organs. Didn't eat those. Wild animal guts are basically bacteria hotels. Eating them in the wilderness is how you turn a good day into a dying of infection day. Instead, I save the guts for fish bait and trap lures. Waste nothing, risk nothing. For the stove setup, I placed a flat rock on top of the fire and set the pot on the rock. Direct flame on metal destroys your cookware fast, and this pot was the only one I had. No warranty department in the apocalypse. Gotta make it last. The fire was roaring, the pot was bubbling, and my little squirrel friend was turning into the most beautiful soup I'd ever seen in my life. Oil from the meat started seeping into the water, and the smell. Oh my God, the smell. 2.5 years of eating gray sludge in a bunker, and now here I was, watching real meat dance around in a boiling pot. I sprinkled in a tiny pinch of salt, gave it a stir with a stick, and just sat there inhaling like a creep at a bakery. 20 minutes. Later, done. I fished out a piece with my hand-carved chopsticks. Yeah, I made chopsticks, because I'm civilized, blew on it twice, and took a bite. I'm not exaggerating when I say my soul briefly left my body. It was juicy. It was tender. It tasted like nuts because the squirrel had been eating nothing but nuts its entire life. It was better than beef. I started smacking my lips and making noises that should probably not be broadcast to an entire nation. Chat was in agony. Is this a survival stream or a food channel? Bro, please stop chewing so loud. I haven't eaten real food in 2 years, and you're killing me. I just remembered his big speech earlier. This man really is on vacation. I ate the whole squirrel, drank every drop of that heavenly soup, and leaned back feeling like a king. Autumn breeze on my face, warm broth in my belly. Life was good, but I couldn't stay here. The stream was great for water, but food would run out fast. A few squirrels and some nuts wouldn't last through winter. I needed to find a lake, or, even better, the ocean. I had fishing line, so I could catch fish. And more importantly, I only had 1 bag of salt. When that runs out, it's game over for flavor. But if I found the sea, unlimited salt. Just boil seawater. Problem solved forever. I boiled 1 more pot of water for the road, packed up my fire, and started heading back to grab my backpack. On the way, I spotted something on the ground that made my heart jump. Little black pellets, shiny, shaped like peanuts. Deer poop. Now, most people would not get excited about finding poop. But I am not most people. Deer poop means deer. Deer means deer meat. Deer means deer skin for warm clothes. Deer means deer antlers for. Well, let's skip that one. And most importantly, deer tendons can be turned into a bowstring. If I could make a bow and arrow with my system leveling everything up, I'd become the deadliest hunter in this entire world. Even bears would have to salute me. I forced myself to calm down and kept walking. One thing at a time. Find a home base first, then become the apex predator. Something I didn't notice as I left. The bushes behind me were rustling, and a thin trail of blood was leaking out from inside them. Whatever was in there. I'd already moved on. I grabbed my backpack and headed west. From the mountain earlier, I'd scoped out the terrain. East was thick jungle, bad idea without proper gear. West had a wide open path. Easy choice. Meanwhile, our fishing bro gang finally caught something. A 3-pound largemouth bass after 4 hours of waiting. No resource multiplier triggered though, which bummed everyone out. But hey, the man was alive and eating. That's what mattered. The real comedy show, however, was happening in Monkey Nation stream. Their contestant picked some wild fruit, which triggered the 10,000 times return. Their whole country went nuts. People trampling each other to grab the fruit, shoving, screaming, total chaos. One guy didn't even wipe the fruit before biting into it. Big mistake. His mouth went numb. Then his whole body. Then he hit the floor twitching and grabbing his throat. Turns out the fruit was poisonous. Their officials panicked and burned 10% of their national luck just to send a warning message to their contestant, who nearly ate one too. And me? I was just sitting on a rock, casually flipping through my encyclopedia, reading about that exact same fruit. Green sting fruit, it said. The skin alone contains a toxin that forces any animal that touches it into a mating frenzy. And if you don't, let's say, resolve the situation within 30 minutes, men permanently lose function down there and women get lifelong stomach pain. If you actually eat it with the skin on, nervous system shutdown, death. But peel the skin off, wash it properly, and it's perfectly safe to eat. I slowly closed the book. What kind of deranged fruit is this? This world was absolutely unhinged. And I had the only cheat sheet to all of it sitting right in my backpack. Best starter item ever. Meanwhile, the whole world got a free lesson in why you don't grab random alien fruit. Remember that poisonous green sting fruit from my encyclopedia? Well, Monkey Nation got 10,000 of them dumped into their shelter square, and people went absolutely feral trying to grab them. Pushing, shoving, trampling, total zoo behavior. Nobody stopped to think, hey, maybe we should check if these are safe first. Big mistake. The ones who ate the fruit started foaming at the mouth and dropping like flies. But the ones who just touched it? Oh boy, the skin toxin kicked in and they all got, how do I put this delicately? Extremely romantically motivated. Against their will. In public. With a 30-minute countdown before permanent consequences. Back in my country's studio, Professor Lee, who was quickly becoming the most entertaining man on television, got intel from the war room and casually suggested, you know, if someone were to tell Monkey Nation about the fruit's effects right after they've already destroyed most of them, that would be very interesting. The man chose violence that day, and the entire chat gave him a standing ovation. Monkey Nation's leader found out and completely lost it. Their solution to the mass involuntary arousal crisis was creative. Let's just say it involved wigs, cheap perfume, and a don't ask, don't tell policy. Their stream got cut, but spies leaked the footage anyway. Our chat room needed therapy after watching. Every other country on the planet collectively decided, okay, we are not touching anything we don't recognize. And me? I just had a book with all the answers. Sitting pretty. After my rest, I packed up and kept moving west. My feet were screaming at me after walking all day, and I was starting to accept that I might just have to sleep behind a rock tonight. But first, snack run. A cute little red-bellied squirrel was sitting on a branch above me, staring down with those big curious eyes like, what are you? I'll tell you what I am, little buddy. I'm a guy with level 6 throwing and 0 mercy. I pulled a stone from my pocket, predicted exactly which direction it would dodge, and thwack. Direct hit to the belly. It tumbled off the branch, and I caught it, snapped its neck like a professional, and clipped it to my belt without breaking stride. Third squirrel of the day. 30% hit rate. Chat was losing their minds. ISE hacking. No, friends. I'm just built different. Well, me and my secretly leveling up skill system. Then I crested the hill and saw it. A lake. A gorgeous, golden, shimmering lake stretching out maybe 10 square kilometers, glowing in the sunset like liquid treasure. To the east, a massive forest full of pine, birch, and spruce trees, perfect for building. Beyond that, what looked like a river feeding into the lake. To the west, a big flat grassland, slightly elevated, natural drainage, minimal trees. It was like the wilderness said, here you go, king, I built you a house lot. I didn't even stop to rest. Sprinted straight down to that grassland. The grass was dry and golden from autumn, great for fire starting, bad for sleeping on because of bugs. So I lit the whole area up with controlled burns to chase away every snake, spider, and creepy crawly in a 50-meter radius. No way I'm waking up with something crawling in my ear. Dinner was squirrel number 3. Delicious as always. Then, before bed, I pulled up my system panel and nearly choked. 10 skills. In one day? Let me run through this beautiful report card. Breathing, level 8. My lungs were becoming absolute units. Walking, level 10. I could practically hike forever now. Stone throwing, level 6 with 30% accuracy. Woodcutting, level 2. Fire making, level 3. Gathering, level 1. Butchering, level 2. Better meat yield and cleaner pelts. Cooking, level 2. Food actually tasting better now. Reading, level 2. My memory was improving. And carpentry, level 2. Day 1, and I was already becoming a one-man civilization. At this rate, by the end of the month, I'd be less survival contestant and more guy who accidentally builds an empire while looking for lunch. I lay back on the warm, freshly burned ground and stared up at the stars. Not bad for a guy who started the day standing still and grinning like a broken robot. Night fell, and I did something deeply strategic. I sat by the campfire drinking wild rose tea and reading my encyclopedia like some kind of post-apocalyptic book club member. Look, After Monkey Nation's fruit disaster and Clock Nation losing a contestant to allergic berry death, I wasn't about to get caught slipping. This world's plants were basically landmines with leaves. Every page I turned was another. Oh cool, that can kill me too. Knowledge is power, and ignorance is a full-body rash followed by death. The moon rose. Insects sang their little bug songs. And honestly, it was kind of perfect. No boss yelling at me. No parents asking when I'm getting married. No random people judging my life choices. Just me, a fire, and a book full of things that could murder me. Peaceful, in a weird way. Eventually, I got drowsy, tossed some wood on the fire, and passed out. And naturally, the system had something to say about it. Ding! You have learned the passive skill. Sleep, level 1. Higher levels improve sleep quality and allow you to fall asleep anywhere, anytime. I now had a skill for sleeping. My system was so extra. What's next? Skill unlocked. Blinking? But hey, it worked. As sleep leveled up through the night, I actually slept like a rock. Meanwhile, chat told me later that some beast was lurking on the hill above me, eyeing me like a midnight snack. It wanted to come closer, but the campfire scared it off. Thank you, fire. You're the real MVP. Morning came. Fire was mostly dead, but the embers were still glowing. Tossed some dry grass on top. Poof. Flames again. Breakfast was squirrel soup with nuts. At this point, I was basically running a 1-star restaurant, and I was my only customer. 5-star reviews, though. Then I heard it. Quack, quack, quack. My head snapped toward the lake so fast I almost pulled a muscle. There, floating on the sparkling water like little feathered boats, was an army of wild ducks. Green-headed mallards, dozens of them, splashing around without a care in the world. My stomach growled. My brain whispered, roast duck. But here's the problem. Mallards are paranoid little jerks. The slightest noise, and they panic fly away screaming. And yes, they can fly. Without a bow, catching one was basically impossible. So I filed that under tonight's project and moved on. When they returned to their nests at sunset, I'd make my move. Worst case scenario, I'd raid their nests for eggs. Duck eggs are basically nature's protein bars. Chat was going crazy. Duck? Roast duck. Mama, I want roast duck. Some people were mad I didn't immediately sprint at the ducks like a maniac. But come on, priorities. A duck dinner means nothing if a wolf steals it while I'm sleeping in a field. I needed a home first. Into the forest I went, axe in hand, ready to become the world's most efficient lumberjack. I picked birch trees, about 10 centimeters thick. Too fat, and I'd waste all my energy. Too skinny, and they'd snap like toothpicks. Goldilocks zone. Perfect. Spit on my palms, rolled up my sleeves, and started swinging. Thunk, 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 crack. First tree down in under 5 minutes. Second tree, 3 minutes. The woodcutting skill was leveling up in real time, and each level made my swings faster and more precise. Every chop landed in exactly the same spot, like a machine. Chat could not believe what they were seeing. Is this guy really a college student? He chops like a lumberjack with 20 years experience. If the cartoon bear Lagervik had these skills, those 2 bears would have been homeless years ago. 10 minutes, 3 trees. Lumber companies are taking notes right now, and that was just the warm-up. As the skill kept climbing, I got faster. The entire morning, the forest echoed with nothing but the rhythmic sound of my axe absolutely demolishing trees. One by one they fell, each one quicker than the last. Somewhere out there, a beaver watched me work and quietly filed for early retirement. 36 trees. One morning, my arms felt like overcooked noodles, but the woodcutting skill hit level 6, and honestly, each tree was falling faster than the last. I was basically a human chainsaw at this point. I stood up to go make lunch, and that's when I locked eyes with the dumbest bird I've ever seen. A grouse, just standing there on a dirt mound, pecking at bugs, completely unaware that it was looking at the apex predator of this entire island. Me. Well, I whispered. Looks like heaven's sending me a lunch delivery. Now, stone throwing wouldn't work here. Squirrels are tiny. Hit them anywhere and they're done. But a grouse is big and tough. A rock to the body would just make it angry and airborne. I needed a different approach. Time to build a snare. I cut a 4-meter birch pole, stripped it clean, tied a loop of fishing line to the end with a slip knot, and boom, homemade lasso on a stick. Took me 5 minutes. The system immediately started feeding me stealth XP as I crept toward my target. Ding! You have learned the passive skill. stealth, reduces sound from your footsteps. Every step I took got quieter. Level 2 stealth popped mid-approach, and suddenly my feet were gliding over dead leaves like a ghost in sneakers. The grouse looked up once. I froze behind a tree. It shrugged its little bird shoulders and went back to eating bugs. 20 meters. 10 meters. 5 meters. Millions of people were watching. My country's viewers were holding their breath so hard they probably leveled up their breathing skill. Enemy spies were in the chat screaming, "Fly away, chicken BRO. Don't let him get you." 3 meters. I peeked around the tree and slowly extended my pole toward the bird. The grouse stared at this weird stick creeping toward its face with the most confused expression. Like, what is this branch doing? Branches don't move like that. It tried to waddle away. Too slow. I dropped the loop over its head, yanked hard, and yoink, the grouse was dangling in the air, flapping and screaming bloody murder. Alive. I caught it alive. And that is where things got beautiful. Because a dead animal returns dead copies to my country. But a living animal? That returns living copies. The global announcement rang out. Dragon Nation contestant Superhuman has captured a live grouse. Resource return triggered. Congratulations, Dragon Nation receives 10,000 live grouse. 10,000 living, breathing, egg-laying, breedable chickens just appeared in shelters across my entire country. People didn't just get a meal, they got a farm starter kit. Chat absolutely detonated. We can breed them. We have poultry now. Superhuman isn't just surviving. He's rebuilding civilization. Shelters everywhere erupted into chaos as thousands of panicked grouse ran around flapping into walls while people chased them laughing. Professor Lee, now basically my unofficial hype man, calmly explained that once I had a stable food supply, I could even start domesticating ducks. The man was already planning my farming empire, and I hadn't even built a house yet. Now here's the part that made me laugh until my stomach hurt, and I only found out about it later. Remember those 30,000 traders who emigrated to England to become citizens? Yeah, they were slaves now. Bottom tier, no rights, aquaculture given slaves. When England's survival guy caught a tiny palm-sized fish and triggered the return, soldiers immediately confiscated every single fish. The former citizens of my country stood there empty-handed while guards whipped anyone who complained. Don't worry, some of them muttered to each other, once the soldiers and nobles eat their fill, they'll take care of us. Oh, sweet summer children. You left a country that was getting 10,000 live chickens to go be slaves who can't even lick a fish bone. And whose fault is that? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with yours. Meanwhile, I was standing in a forest holding a screaming bird on a stick, grinning from ear to ear, already thinking about what to catch next. Roast duck was still on the menu for tonight. I held up my fat, beautiful grouse to the sky like Simba in The Lion King and addressed my millions of viewers. Now, normally this is where a food streamer would say fans eat first. But since you all just got 10,000 of these bad boys, I think we're good. Let's skip the formalities. The real question was, how do I cook this masterpiece? Roasting would dry it out, and I had 0 marinades. But then I remembered, I saw mushrooms earlier in the forest. And where I come from, there's a legendary dish, chicken stewed with mushrooms. It's basically the national comfort food of my homeland. Warm, rich, soul-healing perfection. Into the forest I went, grouse slung over my shoulder like a lumberjack carrying groceries. First thing I found, a massive brown cap mushroom the size of a soup bowl. Brown bowl mushroom, according to my encyclopedia. Delicious, nutritional, only appears 2 to 3 days before rain. Wait, before rain? That meant a storm was coming in the next couple days. My smile faded a little. No shelter plus heavy rain equals very dead Superhuman. I needed to speed up the house building. But first, lunch. I grabbed 7 or 8 more mushrooms and headed back to camp. One of them even triggered the resource return for my country. That's 3 returns in 2 days. Global first place, baby. #1 provider on the entire planet. Put that on my resume. Now here's where I did something that confused absolutely everyone watching. I tossed some salt into my pot, added a tiny bit of water, and then poured all the chicken blood straight in. Chat went silent. Then the question marks started flooding in. What is he doing? Finally, some chef in the audience figured it out. He's making chicken blood tofu. This absolute madman. For anyone who doesn't know, you mix blood with water and salt at a 1-to-1 ratio, let it sit, and it solidifies into this silky, jiggly, protein-packed tofu. It's a real dish back home. Most people only buy it pre-made from stores, but I grew up in the countryside where Grandma made this stuff fresh. Never waste a single drop of anything edible. That's the rule. Chat was losing it. I've watched survival shows for years and never seen anyone make blood tofu in the wild. This man is operating on a different level. While the blood set, I dealt with the chicken. Plucked all the big feathers carefully. Those were valuable for arrows and fishing lures later. The tiny fuzz? Burned those off over the fire. The bird turned completely black and crispy looking, but once I washed it off, it was perfectly clean. Chopped the whole thing in half with my axe. Everything usable went in the pot. Guts were the only exception. Even the butt. Especially the butt. We waste nothing in this kitchen. I checked my pot. The blood had turned dark red, and when I poked it, it jiggled like jello. Perfect. I broke it into chunks, added water, dumped in the chicken and all the mushrooms, and let it rip. The pot started bubbling. The blood tofu turned from dark red to grayish-brown, exactly right. My stomach was roaring after chopping 36 trees all morning. First bite, chicken blood tofu. Smooth, silky, salty. My eyes rolled back, so far I could see my own brain celebrating. I inhaled every single piece in minutes. Then the mushrooms. Wild mushrooms have this natural flavor that makes restaurant food taste like cardboard. No seasoning needed, just salt and pure forest magic. Then the chicken. Flavor was incredible, but the meat was a bit tough. These were wild birds, not the soft supermarket kind. Would have needed 2 more hours of simmering to get them tender. But I didn't have 2 hours. I had a house to build before the rain came. So I ate, and ate, and ate for a solid hour. The viewers watched every single minute of it. Oil on my lips, soup running down my chin, making sounds that probably violated broadcasting standards. Finally, I leaned back, let out the most satisfying burp of my life, and chugged half a pot of chicken soup to wash it all down. That, I announced to no one in particular, is how you live. Meanwhile, those 30,000 people who emigrated to England? They were discovering that immigration had a 1-year cooldown. Couldn't come back even if they wanted to. They were comforting themselves by saying, once England's survival guys get going, we'll get lamb, while their new masters wouldn't even share fish bones with them. I was out here making blood tofu and mushroom chicken stew in the wilderness, and they were dreaming about maybe someday getting table scraps. Choices have consequences, friends. 10 minutes of rest. That's all I gave myself before I got back to work. Because here's the thing nobody else seemed to understand. Winter was coming, and not in the cool TV show way. In the, you will literally freeze to death way. So while every other contestant was building sad little lean-tos out of sticks, I decided to go underground. A bunker-style shelter. Half buried in the earth, half above ground. The dirt walls act as natural insulation, meaning when it's -30 outside, I'd be inside sipping tea like it's a mild Tuesday. The trade-off? I had to dig a massive hole with no shovel. No shovel? No problem. I'll make one. I grabbed a thick birch log, split it in half, and started carving it down with my axe. 3 centimeters thick for the blade, carefully shaped handle. One wrong move, and the whole thing snaps. But with my carpentry skill climbing, my axe was dancing through that wood like a scalpel. An hour and a half later, I had a fully functional wooden shovel carved from a single log. Chat was amazed. This man just handcrafted a shovel from a tree trunk with nothing but an axe. We are watching a different species. I drew out my floor plan, 4 meters wide, 5 meters long. Then I started digging. Ding! You have learned the passive skill. Excavation. Upgrades reduce stamina cost. Shovel in, dirt out. Shovel in, dirt out. Repeat about 10,000 times. Sweat was pouring off me like a broken faucet. Shirtless, muscles screaming, looking like a construction worker who forgot to bring the construction crew. 2 hours later, excavation hit level 6, 15% less stamina per dig. That skill was literally the only reason I didn't collapse. Some viewers worried about rain flooding the pit, which, fair point. A sunken shelter is basically a swimming pool if you don't plan the drainage right. But they'd just have to trust me on this one. By sunset, I had a pit 1.5 meters deep for by 5 meters wide. I sat on a log, arms shaking, legs dead, every muscle in my body filing a formal complaint. But the foundation was done. Step 1, complete, I wheezed. Tomorrow I start framing. Today, Today I cannot lift my arms. I flopped onto the grass like a starfish and let the viewers go entertain themselves elsewhere. They checked in on Fishing Bro Gang, who'd made a bamboo water filter using charcoal, sand, pebbles, and his own socks. Disgusting? Yes. Effective? Also yes. The man was surviving, and that's what mattered. Then the broadcast switched to some international highlights, and, oh boy, first up, a contestant from Cherry Blossom Nation who had caught a fish. Normal so far. Except instead of cooking it, this guy was hugging the fish, whispering sweet nothings to it, calling it his fish maiden and his salvation on live television, in front of his entire country. His own nation's chat was having a nuclear meltdown. Stop embarrassing us. Why did we send this freak? The studio host turned so red she could have been mistaken for a traffic light. Then they showed the famous survival celebrity bear. The guy with millions of fans, the king of the wild. Surely he was dominating, right? He was roasting 2 fat rats over a campfire. Rats. This man had received a pickaxe, a sleeping bag, hiking boots, a frying pan, and soy sauce. Basically a luxury starter kit. And what did he do with it? Set a bunch of traps like he was filming one of his shows. Caught absolutely nothing. Got chased through the forest by a giant wild boar. Nearly died. And was now eating rodents while I was out here building an underground fortress after a lunch of chicken mushroom stew with homemade blood tofu. Turns out, when you remove the camera crew, the safety team, the backup supplies, and the hotel room he sleeps in after filming, the survival master was just a regular guy who was very good at running away from pigs. Those immigrant fans of his were still making excuses though. Just wait until Bear really gets going. Brother, the man is eating a rat. How much more going do you need? I closed my eyes and smiled. Day 2 wasn't even over, and I was already building the most advanced shelter in the entire game. Tomorrow, walls, roof, and maybe, just maybe, roast duck. After my performance went viral, the broadcast started doing a world tour of other contestants. And let me tell you, it was like watching a nature documentary about failure. Some guy was rolling on the ground, clutching his stomach because he drank dirty water. Multiple contestants were covered in wounds from animal attacks. Others were surviving on bitter wild berries and looking like they regretted every life choice that led them here. But the real entertainment? England got their resource return from Bear's rat hunt. 10,000 rats. 10,000 live rats running wild through the streets of England. Soldiers refused to catch them. Citizens were screaming. And who got assigned rat-catching duty? The 30,000 immigrants from my country. The English queen literally told them, "Those are your food. Catch them or don't. You can't write comedy this good." Then there was the contestant from Curry Nation, who walked up to a stream of questionable water, got on his belly, and just started chugging it raw like a dog at a puddle. Then he bit into a live raw fish. No fire. No cooking. Just teeth and confidence. Chat was stunned. Years of drinking questionable river water back home made this man immune to everything. He's basically a biological weapon. The guy was building a shelter with a saw and hammer while everyone else was still figuring out how to not die. 60,000 people emigrated to his country that day alone. Respect, honestly. Terrifying, but respect. Anyway, back to me. After 2 hours of rest, my arms still felt like soggy noodles, but I had 2 missions for the evening. First, find those duck nests and score some eggs. Second, fire treat my building logs so they wouldn't rot underground. Survival Architecture 101. I grabbed a torch and headed for the lake. The night was alive, crickets singing, fish splashing. I saw a massive ripple on the moonlit water. Whatever made that was big. Filed that under future fishing project. As I tracked the duck's footprints along the shore, 2 new skills popped up. Ding, night vision, enhances sight in darkness. Ding, tracking, improves your ability to follow trails. Higher levels reveal more clues. My eyes were literally getting sharper in real time. Every footprint, every bent blade of grass. I was reading the ground like a book. Then I crouched near a patch of tall grass and, quack, a mallard exploded out of hiding right in front of my face. Pure reflex took over. I ripped the axe from my belt and whack. The duck hit the ground twitching. All the other ducks nearby lost their tiny minds and fled screaming into the lake. Pandemonium. I picked up my prize. This thing was heavy, way meatier than I expected. I only came for eggs and walked away with the whole bird. Tomorrow's menu just upgraded itself. Then the global announcement hit. Dragon Nation contestant Suhan has caught a wild mallard duck. Resource return triggered. Congratulations, Dragon Nation receives 10,000 mallard ducks. My country now had 10,000 squirrels, 10,000 grouse, and 10,000 ducks. We were basically starting a zoo. But then, a bonus notification. Due to contestant Suhan's outstanding performance, a special reward has been granted. One resource intelligence report for your surrounding area. A map appeared on my system panel. Mostly covered in black fog, but my location was revealed, and about 1 kilometer away, a resource point was marked. Premium clay. My brain short-circuited for a second. Clay. Premium clay. Do people understand what this means? Clay means pottery. Pottery means ceramic pots, ceramic bowls, ceramic storage containers. It means I can build a kiln, fire up some charcoal, and enter the freaking ceramic age while everyone else is still eating with their hands. All I needed was to build a kiln that could reach 1,200 degrees, and I could manufacture literally anything made of clay. Pots for cooking, jars for storage, bowls for eating like a civilized human being. I could mass-produce cookware while other contestants were drinking soup out of their cupped hands. I stood there in the moonlight, holding a dead duck in one hand and a map to ceramic glory in the other, grinning like an absolute maniac. I came out tonight hoping for eggs. Instead, I got a duck, a resource map, and a ticket to the pottery industrial revolution. Some nights, the universe just decides you're its favorite person. Back at the studio, Professor Lee was explaining to everyone why clay was basically the equivalent of finding an oil field. Pots, jars, water jugs, storage containers. Clay meant I could manufacture anything. My one steel pot was great, but if it cracked, I'd be eating with my hands forever. With clay and a kiln, I'd have unlimited cookware. The man was practically giving a TED talk about dirt, and the audience was eating it up. Meanwhile, I was on a duck egg treasure hunt, and business was booming. First nest, 8 eggs. 8. I'd never even touched a duck egg before. Grew up in the countryside, but somehow missed that life experience. I lined my backpack with grass like a paranoid parent patting a crib, and gently placed each egg inside. My night vision skill had hit level 3, so even with just a dim torch, I could see into every grass patch like I had built-in night goggles. Found a second nest, 5 more eggs. Back in chat, people were going insane because the eggs were triggering resource returns. And these weren't just regular eggs, they were fertilized. My country could hatch them into baby ducks. We were building a poultry empire in real time. The return announcements kept rolling in. Congratulations, Dragon Nation receives 10,000 hatchable duck eggs. Scientists at the shelters were running around like headless chickens. Ironic, given the situation. More eggs incoming. Get the incubators. Reopen the abandoned hatcheries. They were literally restarting industrial farming operations because of me. One man with an axe and a torch was single-handedly rebooting his nation's food supply. Chat was now a full-blown religion. Whoever talks trash about SU Han again, I will personally fight them. Kimchi Nation, meanwhile, was turning green with jealousy. Their contestant had found some gray, apple-shaped fruit. Looked fine. Wasn't poisonous. Got returned 30,000 times. Everyone celebrated and took a big bite, and then, it tasted like poop. Literally poop-flavored fruit. 30,000 of them. Across their entire country. People were spitting it out everywhere, gagging, crying. That's why no animals ate them off the ground. Even wildlife had standards. Their other contestant was a pretty boy pop star named Park something, who spent the entire first day crying on camera and begging the game to let him go because he was some rich guy's side piece. He opened 2 canned goods from his starter pack, ate them both in one day like a genius, and was now starving with a cut-up foot. Incredible strategy, truly. Anyway, 28 eggs total for my evening raid. Enough for at least 2 full days of meals if I ate nothing else. Plus a fat duck for tomorrow's dinner. I was basically running a grocery store at this point. I slung everything over my shoulder and headed into the birch forest to fire treat my building logs before it got too late. And that's when everything went quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Wrong quiet. The kind of silence where every bird shuts up, every insect stops chirping, and the forest holds its breath like it knows something you don't. A chill crawled up my spine. Something was watching me. Something big. Then, ding, danger sense skill unlocked. When targeted by a large predator or enemy, you can detect their presence. Danger Sense XP1. Danger Sense XP1. The experience was ticking up continuously, which meant whatever was out there hadn't left. It was still staring at me right now, hidden in the darkness. Now, a normal person would run. A smart person would carefully retreat. Me? I had a completely different thought. If I just stand here and let it keep staring at me, the XP keeps going up, right? This was a training opportunity. Free danger sense experience, delivered directly to my nervous system by whatever terrifying creature was lurking 10 meters away. As long as it didn't actually attack, I was basically leveling up by being scared. I had a torch in one hand and an axe in the other. Most animals fear fire. As long as it wasn't a bear, I could handle this standoff. So there I stood, in a dark forest, deliberately letting a predator stare at me while I farmed XP from my own fear response. This is what peak gaming strategy looks like, ladies and gentlemen. It's not pretty, but it's effective. 3 minutes I stood there. 3 minutes of pure staring contest with the darkness, while my danger sense skill climbed to level 2. The XP was flowing like a river, and I wasn't about to leave free experience on the table. Then it stepped out. A gray wolf. Skinny, hungry, desperate. It stopped 5 meters from me, and we locked eyes like two cowboys in a Western movie. My first thought? Nice. Free winter gloves. Chat nearly had a collective heart attack. Han, please don't. You've been working all day. You're exhausted. Just drop the duck and run. Foreign viewers, on the other hand, were cheering for the wolf like it was their favorite sports team. Go Wolf San. Fight him. Eat him. Make Dragon Nation lose 20 points. Neither of us moved. I kept my breathing steady. My body was wrecked from a full day of chopping trees and digging a pit. Sure. But killing one wolf? I had enough juice for that. A new skill started ticking. Ding. Intimidation. When facing an enemy, you can suppress their fighting spirit through sheer presence. Higher levels can scare enemies away. So now I was gaining 2 skills just by standing still and being scary. This wolf was basically a walking XP farm. Then a gust of wind blew in and snuffed out my torch. Oh no. The wolf's eyes lit up. Literally, they went full glowing green, and I could see the exact moment its brain switched from, maybe I shouldn't, to dinner time. It lunged. Every viewer in my country screamed simultaneously. Some people closed their eyes. The host was crying. Professor Lee was gripping his desk so hard his knuckles turned white. But here's the thing about a starving, scared wolf attacking a very angry man with an axe. Come get some, you mangy dog. I roared with everything I had. The intimidation skill amplified my voice into something that probably registered on seismographs. The wolf flinched mid-leap. Just for a split second, its body hesitated. That split second was all I needed. I planted my feet, swung that axe with both hands, and buried it right in the side of the wolf's skull. Crack. Blood sprayed. The wolf hit the ground with a pathetic whimper. But I didn't stop. Exhausted, running on pure adrenaline, I stood over it and hammered the axe down again and again until there was no skull left to hammer. Call it overkill. I call it making sure. Then my legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the fallen leaves, staring up at the stars, panting like I'd just run a marathon. I win. I screamed at the sky, laughing like a maniac. I win, you stupid wolf. Ha ha ha. And that's when every single live stream on the planet received a global broadcast. Notice, Dragon Nation contestant has successfully killed a large wild animal, gray wolf. As the first contestant to kill a large predator, Dragon Nation receives a bonus of 10 national luck points. The message repeated 3 times. Every contestant in the game saw it. Every country saw it. The whole world knew. National luck, back up to 65. Somewhere by a river, the famous survival expert Ed sat up from his sleeping rock and muttered, "How is that possible? The celebrity bear was lying in his grass bed whispering a wolf. At night. Was it a trap? How? None of them could figure it out. Because in their minds, killing a wolf on day 2, at night, alone, with just a hand axe, was absolutely insane. Back in my country's chat, the foreign trolls went dead silent. Every single one. The entire comment section was nothing but victory emojis and people dunking on the haters. Where are the trash talkers now? Speak up. First in the world to kill a large predator. Your boy did that. Anyone who wants to come to Dragon Nation and be our pet, the line starts over there. The TV host was crying happy tears. Professor Lee literally jumped out of his chair screaming, "Dragon Nation is saved." And me? I just lay there on the forest floor, covered in wolf blood, surrounded by a dead predator, a bag of duck eggs, and a fat mallard, staring at the most beautiful starry sky I'd ever seen. Day 2, and I was already the most dangerous thing in this entire world. Well, me and my breathing skill. Can't forget the breathing skill. Turns out, national luck isn't just some number on a scoreboard. It's real. When our Dr. Lin Shui died on day 1 and we lost 20 points, a massive tsunami hit our coastline. That was the price of losing luck. But when I killed that wolf and earned 10 points back, the storms along our coast vanished instantly. Just gone. Like someone flipped a switch. Meanwhile, over in America, their swimming champion dying triggered a snowstorm so bad the snow was literally taller than a person. 2 days of nonstop blizzard. Their supplies were already garbage, and now they were buried alive. Karma works fast in this game. Anyway, back to me, lying on the forest floor, completely destroyed. I wanted to just pass out right there, but I was covered in wolf blood in the middle of nowhere with no torch. Every predator within a mile could smell this buffet. So I dragged myself up and made the most painful logistics decision of my life. The wolf weighed like 80 pounds. I couldn't carry it. I could barely carry myself. So I made 2 trips. First hauled the duck eggs and mallard back to camp, then went back for the wolf, dragging it by the tail like the world's most exhausting dog walk. An hour and a half of dragging. Through the forest. In the dark. With arms that felt like they'd been replaced with wet towels. When I finally got everything home, I was so close to passing out that I could see the dream loading screen. But first, security. I lit 3 separate bonfires around my camp, positioned myself and the wolf in the middle, and then collapsed onto my grass bed. I was snoring before my head even hit the ground. Chad apparently kept watch for me all night. Sleep well, Suhan. We're standing guard. We can't actually do anything, but we're here. Honestly, that's kind of sweet. Dawn. Eyes open. No time for a slow morning. I had a massive to-do list. I boiled some eggs, gnawed on 2 duck legs, and got to work. First mission, skinning the wolf. This wasn't just about meat. Winter was 2 months away, and my hoodie wasn't going to cut it when temperatures dropped to, your snot freezes mid-drip. That wolf pelt could become half a pair of pants. Maybe gloves. The difference between survivable winter and frozen statue of a dumb guy. I needed the skin in one piece. No cuts, no holes, no mistakes. One slip of the axe, and I'd have pants with built-in air conditioning, which is the last thing you want in a blizzard. With my butchering skill cranked up, I went to work. The axe moved through flesh like it had a mind of its own, separating skin from muscle with surgical precision. 28 minutes. One complete, flawless wolf hide. Chat was stunned. My dad is the village pig butcher. He watched Suhan's technique and didn't speak for 10 straight minutes. Another guy compared me to the legendary ancient butcher who could carve an ox with his eyes closed. I'm flattered, but I was honestly just letting the skill do its thing. Now came the hard part, tanning. Raw animal skin rots and gets stiff as cardboard if you don't treat it. There are 3 ways to tan leather in the wild. Option 1. Mash up nuts and rub the oils into the hide. I had nuts, but not nearly enough, and grinding them by hand would take forever. Pass. Option 2. Use brain matter. Every animal has just enough brains to tan its own hide. That's actually a real thing. You smash the brain into paste, boil it into a goopy soup, soak the skin, and massage the oils into every fiber. Option 3. Combine everything oily you've got. I went with the combo meal. Wolf brain plus wolf fat plus duck fat. I cracked open the wolf's skull, scooped out the brain, and dropped it into a wooden bowl I'd carved from a leftover log. Then I went elbow deep into the wolf's belly and started pulling out fat. For a skinny wolf, this guy was hiding a lot of grease. 7 pounds of wolf fat. 7. I felt like I'd struck oil. Half would go to the tanning project. The other half? I had plans. Beautiful, civilized plans. An oil lamp. Once my house was built, I could have a proper indoor light source. No more burning through mountains of firewood every night. No more squinting at my encyclopedia by flickering campfire. And most importantly, no risk of carbon monoxide poisoning from burning a bonfire inside a closed shelter. That's one of those quiet, boring ways to die that I absolutely refused to let happen. I was going to be the first contestant with indoor lighting, a leather wardrobe, and a pottery workshop. Everyone else was still eating rats and crying in caves. Day 3 had just started, and I was already planning my interior design. The morning was pure chaos. I was running around like a one-man factory. Chop wood, haul it back, check the wolf fat rendering, light the fireproofing bonfire, haul more wood, check the fat again, fireproof the logs, repeat. My feet didn't stop moving for 4 straight hours. I was a human conveyor belt. By noon, all the wolf fat was rendered and every log was transported and treated. My stomach was screaming at me like an angry landlord demanding rent. Time to pay up. Today's lunch special, beggar's duck. I plucked the mallard, gutted it, burned off the fuzz over the fire, then stuffed its entire belly with leftover mushrooms, because plain roasted duck is for amateurs. Then I wrapped the whole thing in clean leaves, tied it up with grass, slapped a thick layer of mud around it like a clay sculpture, and buried it in the hot coals. Then I made myself some rose tea and just waited, like a gentleman. 30 minutes later, I dug out my mud ball and cracked it open with the axe. The shell split in two and a wave of aroma hit me so hard I nearly fell over backwards. The duck inside was white, tender, and steaming. I grabbed a leg and it just fell right off. No pulling needed. One bite and juice exploded everywhere, all over my hands, my chin, probably the camera too. 5 minutes. The entire duck was gone. Bones picked clean. Then I grabbed 7 boiled duck eggs as dessert because apparently 1 whole duck wasn't enough for a man who'd been doing manual labor since sunrise. Chat was in agony. Watching me eat. Why did I open this stream during lunch? Mom, I need a phone that lets me smell the screen. One kid literally asked his mother to buy a SIN-enabled device. Amazing. After my food coma subsided, I addressed the camera. Hey everyone. What I'm about to do next is kind of gross. Kids should probably look away. Tanning time. I dunked the wolf hide into my wooden trough full of brain-and-fat mixture and started kneading it like bread dough. Squish, squeeze, stretch, repeat. The oil had to soak into every single fiber of the skin, or it would rot and stiffen into cardboard. Scrub, 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 scrub. I sang a little tune while elbow deep in wolf brain paste. The system gave me a tanning skill, which made my hands work faster and more efficiently with every level. 30 minutes of intense skin massage later, the hide had absorbed all the oil and gone from stiff as plywood to soft as a leather jacket. I hung it up in a breezy spot to dry halfway, and all I'd need to do was rub it every day for about 3 weeks. After that, custom wolfskin pants, or boots, or gloves. Winter was going to hit everyone else like a freight train, and I'd be strolling around in designer wolf wear. Professor Lee was practically writing my biography on live television at this point. This man can hunt, cook, build, craft tools, and tan leather. Someone please tell me what he can't do. He painted this beautiful picture for the audience. When winter comes and the wind is howling, every other contestant will be freezing in rags while I'm walking through the snow in wolfskin boots, warm and cozy. The audience ate it up. What I didn't know at the time was that other countries were starting to panic. Specifically, America's leadership was having a meeting about me. Can we get our contestants to kill this guy? If he keeps developing like this, Dragon Nation will become the strongest country in the new world. Sorry, sir. We can't locate him. We can't even locate our own contestants. Everyone's scattered across different islands. They wanted me dead and couldn't even find me. Beautiful. I was out here singing songs while washing wolf brains off my hands. And somewhere across the world, an entire military intelligence department was stressed out about a 24-year-old college dropout making duck soup in the woods. If that's not winning, I don't know what is. Tanning done. No time to admire my work. I had a house to build. I grabbed the first fireproofed log, jammed it into the foundation pit, and hammered it down with my axe until it wasn't going anywhere. Ding! Construction skill unlocked. Reduces stamina by 5% and lowers the chance of mistakes. Oh, you beautiful, beautiful system. Just keep the buffs coming. First wall, done in 30 minutes. Half the wood was buried underground for stability, with only about a meter sticking up above ground level. Then walls 2, 3, and 4. By 3 p.m., construction had rocketed to level 5, 10% less stamina drain and 20% faster building speed. I was basically becoming a human construction crew. Chat was having an existential crisis. Wait, he actually built it in one day? I'm starting to think I could do this too. No, you couldn't, buddy. You have no idea how many hidden skill levels are carrying me right now. Next, the roof. A proper triangle roof would be ideal, but I didn't have enough tools or materials for that. So I went with a single slope design, logs laid east to west, gradually angling down to create a slant. Simple, effective, and uses way less waterproofing material. Engineering is about working smart, not fancy. Here's where my carpentry skill, now at a terrifyingly high level, really showed off. I used mortise and tenon joints for everything. No nails, no rope, no problem. Ancient joinery technique that's stronger than either. Each roof beam clicked into its carved slot with a satisfying snap and didn't budge a millimeter when I shook it. One beam after another went up. The roof took shape like a time-lapse video. When the last beam locked into place, chat erupted. He actually did it. One day, a full underground bunker. I want to have this man's babies. Actual comment, I'm told. Someone explain how he does everything with just an axe. I stood there in the sunset, hands on my hips, wind in my hair, staring at my house. My underground fortress, built with my own 2 hands and 1 axe. If that's not the most masculine thing that's ever happened on television, I don't know what is. I allowed myself exactly 30 seconds of proud grinning before remembering. I still needed a door, stairs, and eventually a heated sleeping platform. Yeah, calm. The traditional heated brick bed from northern farmhouses back home. When winter hits, that thing would keep me toasty while blizzards raged outside. But that was a project for another day. For now, stairs and a door. I needed stone steps at the entrance so rain wouldn't flood in and turn my living room into an indoor pool. There was a river to the west that probably had plenty of flat stones and pebbles. But by now the sky was getting dark, and I could hear animals howling in the distance. 3 days of nonstop maximum effort. My body was filing for divorce. Forget it. Rain or no rain. I'm done for today. I carved a quick ladder using mortise and tenon joints. At carpentry level 10, this was like tying shoelaces, and built a simple wooden door from leftover planks. Nothing pretty, but it closed and it locked. That's all a door needs to do. I moved everything inside. Grass bedding, backpack, remaining wolf meat, duck eggs, tools. The wolf hide went up on a beam, dangling from fishing line to air dry. This was home now. Dinner was duck eggs and a wolf leg. First time eating wolf meat. Verdict: kind of gamey, kind of tough, but definitely edible. Not winning any cooking awards, but it filled the tank. I moved the campfire inside. Door left open for ventilation, so no carbon monoxide risk, and lay down on my grass bed intending to read for a while. I was asleep in under 60 seconds. That night, a massive windstorm ripped through the wilderness. Contestants without shelter got absolutely destroyed, freezing, terrified, clinging to whatever they could find. People in caves were fine, but barely. And me? Snoring peacefully in my underground bunker, door half open, fire crackling, wolf skin drying overhead, belly full of duck eggs and wolf leg. I didn't hear a single gust. Day 3. House built. Warm bed secured. Civilization in progress. While I was sleeping like a baby in my underground fortress, the rest of the world was getting absolutely wrecked. That pretty boy pop star from Kimchi Nation? Completely broken. Crying, screaming, calling for his mommy. The guy was starving, freezing, and, most devastating of all, nobody was around to tell him how handsome he was. He swore that if he ever escaped, he'd never visit another chicken again. And yes, that means exactly what you think it means. In his defense, he claimed it only lasted 3 seconds. In nobody else's defense, 3 seconds is still 3 seconds, bro. Cherry Blossom Nation's fish-loving contestant built a sad little leaf hut, and the windstorm blew it apart like a house of cards. The branches collapsed on his face. His shelter didn't just fail, it attacked him on the way out. But the best disaster? Maple Nation's golden boy, Carrie. This genius had a top-tier starter pack, tent, lighter, sleeping bag, the works. Absolute dream setup. Then he lit a campfire, went to sleep without clearing the dry leaves around it, and the wind spread the flames to everything. Tent, burned. Lighter, melted. Sleeping bag, ashes. He went from best opening hand in the game to guy standing in his underwear watching his stuff burn. in about 45 seconds. His country had to sacrifice 5 luck points just to restore his items. Chat was furious. Even a child knows to clear leaves away from fire. Dragon Nation's contestant clears his campsite of bugs, and this idiot can't even manage leaves. Some Maple Nation viewers were so done that they started talking about immigrating to MY country. Dragon Nation's guy built an underground bunker in 2 days and killed a wolf. Our guy burned his own tent. I'm packing my bags. Can't argue with that logic. Meanwhile, I slept until 9 a.m. Like a king. No wind damage, no drama, no tent catching fire. Just peaceful snoring in my cozy underground house. I crawled out, stretched, and squinted at the bright morning sun. Looked gorgeous outside, but I knew better. Those mushrooms from yesterday meant rain was coming, and I needed to waterproof my roof today. But first, morning exercise. I planted my feet by the lake and started doing, I kid you not, the national radio calisthenics routine. Set number 8. The exact same one every kid in my country does at school. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. Why? Because if my system turns everything into a skill, what happens when I exercise on purpose? Ding! Exercise skill unlocked. Increases muscle strength, improves heart and lung function, enhances joint flexibility. The higher the level, the stronger your body becomes. Nice. But then came the bonus. Special note. Consistent daily exercise grants bonus XP. Complete a 7-day streak for a minor physical boost. Complete a 30-day streak for a major physical enhancement. Minimum 30 minutes per day required. A streak bonus? My system had a daily login reward like a mobile game. This changed everything. If I worked out every single day, my body would keep getting stronger with no ceiling. We're talking potentially superhuman levels. Could I eventually punch a cow to death? Genuinely possible. The thought made me giggle like a kid. But then my brain went somewhere even more exciting. If exercise leveled up my body, what about martial arts? I didn't know Kung Fu. But we were now past day 3, which meant my country could spend luck points to call me. 30 seconds of communication. And in those 30 seconds, someone could teach me the basic form of Wing Chun, or Jeet Kune Do, or anything. Just enough for the system to register martial arts as a skill. After that, I'd just practice. The system would handle the rest. Level 1 today, God tier in a month. I'd go from guy with axe to human weapon who also has an axe. Every beast in this forest would need to start running. And if I ever bumped into another contestant trying to start trouble, 1 punch. Problem solved. I finished my morning stretches with a grin so wide it probably scared the ducks. Day 4 was going to be a great day. Morning workout, complete. Streak day 1, logged. Now I just had to do that every day for a month, and I'd basically become Captain America. Easy. Breakfast was wolf leg and duck eggs. Again. And honestly, I was getting sick of it. 3 straight days of nothing but meat, and my body was begging for literally anything else. A pickle, a chili pepper, a single leaf of lettuce. Anything. 3 days ago, I would have sold my soul for a bite of meat. Now I was staring at a wolf leg thinking, ugh, not this again. Humans are truly impossible to satisfy. But I had a roof to waterproof, so I shoved the meat down my throat like medicine and got to work. No tiles, no cement, no tar paper, just me, some mud, and tree bark. Here's the trick. Mix dry grass into wet mud for reinforcement, basically ancient concrete. I scooped a massive blob onto my wooden shovel, yeeted it onto the roof, and scraped it flat with a board in one smooth motion. Chat was stunned. Wait, you can just do that? I was worried he'd be up there smearing mud with his hands for hours, and this madman invented the squeegee. Wow. The mud was still wet. I slapped on birch bark strips, all cut to the same 30-centimeter width because I'd been smart enough to pick similar-sized trees from the start. Uniform bark means uniform coverage means no gaps. I laid them bottom to top, overlapping like roof tiles. Then I did the whole thing again. Second layer of mud, second layer of bark. Double waterproofing. If the top layer cracked, the bottom layer would still hold. Insurance policy, Wilderness Edition. I finished the roof just as the sky started looking suspicious. Clouds were moving in. My mushroom weather forecast was about to be proven right. Quick lunch, then I grabbed my backpack and power walked toward the western riverbank. I wanted to grab stones and scout for resources before the rain hit. And that's when the treasure hunt started. I was scanning the landscape when I spotted a familiar-looking plant. About 20 centimeters tall, thin stalks like grass, tiny wilting flowers at the top. Wild green onions. I sprinted over like I'd found diamonds. Because for someone from my country, green onions are diamonds. They're not just food. They're the foundation of flavor. Stir-fry without green onions is like a song without music. And here was an entire field of them. Chat went nuclear. He found green onions. Our cooking just leveled up. White-cut chicken with green onion sauce. I'm going to cry. This man doesn't find resources. Resources find him. I carefully picked the flower heads. Those contained seeds for growing more, and dug up whole plants with soil attached for transplanting outside my front door. A personal herb garden. Civilization was accelerating. The resource return triggered 100,000 wild green onion plants distributed across the nation. My people had seasoning now. The joy was indescribable. 6 trips back and forth to haul everything home. Exhausting, but worth it. Then I headed out again and immediately found wild mint growing near the lake. Are you kidding me? I should have come west on day 1. I started digging up the mint, already imagining mint tea, mint seasoning, mint everything, when a cold gust of wind slapped me across the face. Oh no, the sky had turned dark gray while I wasn't looking. Fat raindrops started falling. 1, 2, then 1,000 at once. I grabbed my stuff and bolted for home, running like my life depended on it. Which, if my clothes got soaked with no way to dry them, it kind of did. Rain in the wilderness isn't romantic. It's hypothermia with extra steps. I burst through my front door just as the sky completely opened up. Rain hammered down like someone had turned a fire hose on the entire forest. Safe. Dry. Inside my waterproofed underground bunker with a fresh supply of green onions and mint. I looked up at my ceiling. Not a single drop coming through. Double-layer waterproofing for the win. While the rain turned the outside world into a disaster movie, I got to enjoy the show from my dry, cozy bunker. First up on the entertainment channel, England's bear curled up inside a tree hole like a sad hamster, watching his shelter-building plans wash away. The man had eaten half a handful of berries for breakfast. That's not a meal, that's a garnish. Then we cut to Cherry Blossom Nation's contestant, who was screaming curses at the sky from his tiny cave. "How dare you do this to a descendant of the sun goddess," he yelled. Then lightning struck a tree right next to him, and this tough guy instantly dropped to the ground and started bowing and apologizing to the weather. "I'm sorry. I'm a stupid pig. Please forgive me." Watching that clip later almost made me pull a stomach muscle from laughing. Their other contestant had it even worse. Lost his matches in the rain. No matches means no fire. No fire means no cooking, no warmth, no survival. Total game over. Cherry Blossom Nation's leadership had to sacrifice luck points just to teleport him into a cave and give his matches back. But their leader wasn't. Doing charity, he basically told the guy, "Your sister is in our capital now, and you wouldn't want anything bad to happen to her, right?" Classic hostage motivation. The creepy part? After the call ended, the contestant smiled. Not a, "Thank goodness I'm alive" smile. More of a, "I know something you don't" smile. The viewers caught it on screenshots, but nobody could figure out what it meant. Apparently, this guy was planning something. But honestly, not my circus, not my monkeys. Because I was having the best rainy day ever. Stuck indoors with nothing to do. Perfect. Time to furnish my house. What's a home without a table? I grabbed my leftover birch logs and started splitting. One log became 2 halves. Each half became 2 boards. For boards, trimmed and slotted with mortise and tenon joints so precise that a furniture factory would be jealous. Chat started figuring it out. He's making a traditional square table. His joinery is flawless. Not a single millimeter off. At carpentry level 12, my hands were basically operating on autopilot. The axe wasn't even a tool anymore. It was an extension of my fingers. I fitted the 4 boards together like a puzzle. Click, 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 click. Perfect. Not a wobble. Then 4 legs, 60 centimeters tall, with cross braces for stability because I'm not an amateur who makes wobbly furniture. 1 hour later, a beautiful birchwood square table stood in the middle of my underground bunker. Carpentry leveled up to 13, which unlocked a focus mode that boosted work speed by 20%. Let me paint the picture here. Outside, biblical rainstorm. Survival contestants across the globe, freezing, starving, crying, getting struck by lightning, losing their supplies, questioning their life choices. Me, sitting at my handmade dining table in my waterproof underground house, listening to the rain on my bark-shingled roof, probably about to make myself a cup of mint tea. This wasn't survival anymore. This was interior decorating. Table done. Now I needed a chair. 20 minutes. 20. Chat couldn't process it. Foreign viewers were flooding in from other countries' streams, and the numbers jumped from 300 million to over a billion. They tuned in expecting a survival show and instead found a guy building IKEA furniture in an underground house during a rainstorm. Wait, he has a shelter? When did that happen? It's only day 4. Is this the same game? Our contestant is hiding under a leaf. Can this player help our contestant? Please, my fellow countrymen handled the diplomacy beautifully. Help you? Give back our stolen cultural relics first, then we'll talk. I sat down in my new chair, and look, it was a little rough on the butt, but nothing a wolfskin cushion wouldn't fix later. I brewed my last cup of wild rose tea, set it on my table, opened my encyclopedia, and just existed peacefully in my furnished underground home, while a biblical rainstorm raged outside. The internet collectively lost its mind at the contrast. Other contestants were starving, freezing, soaking wet, hiding in tree holes. And here I was, sipping tea at my dining table like a retired gentleman on a Sunday morning. I used to think Bear was impressive. Compared to this guy, Bear is a clown. Ed is my hero, but he's living in a different century than this man. Over in England's slave quarters, the 30,000 immigrants were huddled and filthy corners watching my stream, when a comment popped up saying, "I wonder if those immigrants regret their choice yet." The broadcast director, absolute savage, enlarged it in gold text across the entire screen. The immigrants erupted, screaming, cursing, foaming at the mouth. Then they started fighting each other. "This is your fault, Wong Kuan. You said England's contestants were amazing. For days in, and they can't even build a shed." Wong Kuan, the guy who'd convinced dozens of families to emigrate, was getting blamed by everyone. Turns out the English officials had promised him a government position in exchange for recruiting immigrants. He never got it. Shocking. Next morning, sun's out, storm's over. I inspected my roof. First layer had a tiny bit of moisture seepage, but the second layer held perfectly. Double waterproofing, justified. I transplanted my green onions outside the front door. Personal herb garden, operational. The mint went inside the shelter's corner since it dies in cold weather. Indoor mint tea supply secured. Then I made breakfast in OH. My God, wolf meat stew with green onions. The difference was like going from black and white TV to 4K Ultra HD. Yesterday, I could barely force the meat down. Today, the green onion aroma hit me when I lifted the lid, and I almost cried. The meat had a layer of green onion silk draped over it. The broth had turned creamy white from slow cooking overnight, and every bite was pure heaven. The host whispered to Professor Lee on air, "Is it just me, or has our contestant gotten chubbier?" Lee squinted at the screen. "Well, when you eat wolf steak and duck eggs for every meal, a little weight gain is expected." Chat died laughing. It was true, though. I hadn't missed a single meal since arriving. While shelter residents back home were still eating gray paste, I was out here gaining weight in a survival game. Getting rounder during the apocalypse. That takes talent. After breakfast, I mapped out my day. Morning. Head east for duck eggs and post-rain mushrooms, because after a good rain, mushrooms pop up everywhere like nature's grocery restock. Afternoon. Continue exploring the western riverbank for more resources. My encyclopedia had shown me dozens of useful plants I might find, spices, medicines, building materials. The survival game was 4 days old. Most contestants were still trying to figure out how to not die. I was meal planning and scheduling exploration runs around my mushroom foraging calendar. Different leagues, friends. Different leagues entirely. Egg heist time. I strolled down to the lake, and the ducks were all out in the water doing duck things. Perfect. Empty nests, unguarded eggs, nobody home. Like robbing a bank where the guards went on lunch break. I crept into the grass and immediately came face to face with a mother duck sitting on her nest. We stared at each other for about half a second before she panicked, abandoned her babies, and tried to run. Keyword, tried. See, here's a fun fact about me. Last night, I discovered you can grind throwing XP by sitting in a corner tossing pebbles at the wall while reading. So that's exactly what I did. For half the night, my throwing skill blasted up to level 16. The stats? 15 meters, 45% accuracy. 10 meters, 70% accuracy. 7 meters, 90% headshot rate. So when that duck turned to flee, I flicked a stone almost casually and pop, direct headshot. Instant death. Didn't even have time to finish her last quack. The foreign viewers who just tuned in for the first time completely lost it. What? That's hacking. I should be seeing a stone, not a revolver. Did he just one-shot a duck with a pebble? Oh, but I wasn't done. The dead ducks screaming alerted the other mothers in the grass, and they all started running. I pulled out stone number 2, tracked a duck 7 meters away, and bonk. Headshot number 2. The foreigners went dead silent. One lucky shot is coincidence. 2 headshots in a row is a sniper. I sprinted after the flock and nailed a third one on the run. 3 mother ducks in under a minute. The rest escaped into the water, quacking like their lives depended on it. Which, to be fair, they absolutely did. Resource return triggered. 10,000 dead ducks for my country. 3 rounds of egg returns fired off too. 30,000 more hatchable eggs sent home. Scientists at the shelters were probably building incubators in their sleep at this point. I packed my backpack until it was literally overflowing with eggs, hauled everything back to base, then returned for round 2 of searching. That's when I found something way more interesting than eggs. I was poking through the wet grass with a stick, not because of rain, but because wet grass is where sneaky things hide, when I flipped back a patch and saw the most colorful thing I'd ever encountered. A snake, about a meter long, covered in 5 different patterns: red, green, black, pink, and purple, like someone spilled a paint set on a noodle. Oh snap, I just opened a loot box and got a legendary, giant spicy noodle. Wait, no, that's a 5-flower venomous snake. That's not a threat, that's a treasure. My encyclopedia entry flashed through my mind instantly. 5-flower snake, extremely rare species. Its gallbladder enhances physical strength and improves eyesight. The meat is tender and considered a top-tier delicacy. However, and this is the important part, 3 milligrams of its venom can kill a cow. So basically, the most delicious, most beneficial, most deadly snake in the entire wilderness. The kind of find where the reward is incredible and the punishment for screwing up is death. The TV host turned white as a sheet. Professor Lee nearly swallowed his own tongue. Retreat. Why isn't he retreating? Because retreating is for people without a plan, Professor. I backed away slowly, went to the lake, and sharpened 2 wooden spears with my axe. 1 primary, 1 backup. Because when you're fighting a snake that can kill livestock with a sneeze, you don't get a second chance. I crept back to the grass. 1 step at a time. Stealth skill doing its thing. The snake hadn't moved, and when I carefully lifted the grass around it, I saw why. Its belly was swollen like a balloon. This snake had just eaten something big, probably one of the nesting ducks, and was sitting there in a food coma, too stuffed to move. I know that feeling, buddy. I literally ate 7 duck eggs in 1 sitting yesterday. But sympathy won't stop me from turning you into medicine. I used my left-hand stick to gently push grass aside, inch by inch, until I spotted the head. The moment those beady little eyes came into view, I stabbed. Schlunk. The wooden spear punched straight through the snake's skull and pinned it to the ground like a pushpin through paper. 1 shot. 1 kill. Well, 1 kill eventually. Because here's something nobody tells you about snakes. They don't know they're dead. The body went absolutely berserk, whipping and coiling around the stick like a possessed garden hose. 5 colors of scales thrashing in every direction while the brain was literally already destroyed. I backed up and waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15 minutes this thing kept twitching. I stood there like a guy waiting for his microwave to finish, except the microwave was a venomous rainbow noodle having a death tantrum. Finally, silence. I poked it with my backup spear. Nothing. Poked again. Dead as a doornail. But I wasn't taking chances. Instead of pulling out the head spear, I just chopped through the body 7 inches below the skull with my axe. The dangerous end stays pinned to the ground forever. I'm keeping the delicious end. The global announcement went triple. Dragon Nation contestant has killed an ultra-rare species, 5-flower venomous snake. First player to kill an ultra-rare species. 10 national luck, plus 10,000 dead 5-flower snakes returned to my country. That's not just food. That's a strategic military asset. Each snake has 5 gallbladders that enhance physical strength and improve eyesight. My country's leadership immediately locked down every single snake carcass. Those gallbladders were going straight to the soldiers. Super Soldier Serum, Snake Edition. I carried my prize home and got to work. Peeled the skin off like pulling off a sock. Slow, steady, one smooth motion. Butchering level 8 made it almost elegant. The finished snake skin was gorgeous, all 5 colors gleaming in the sunlight. Foreign viewers were mesmerized. This thing could become a water pouch, a belt, a storage bag, multi-purpose luxury material. Then I opened up the meat and started hunting for the real treasure. 5 gallbladders, each one the size of a small grape, dark red like tiny rubies. First one out. I held it up, tilted my head back, and swallowed it whole. Not bad. No taste really. Normally eating raw snake organs is a terrible idea because of parasites. But the 5-flower snake's special venom kills all parasites inside its own body. Nature's own deworming system. So raw consumption? Totally safe. Second gallbladder. Down the hatch. Third, fourth, fifth. All gone in under a minute. Then I waited. Nothing happened. Wasn't this supposed to make me stronger? Did the encyclopedia lie to me? But then I realized, this isn't a video game with instant buffs. These are biological supplements. They need to digest. Patience, Suhan. Patience. I cleaned up, tossed the snake meat into the pot with water, hung the skin inside to dry, and threw the guts into the lake as fish bait. Waste nothing. Only 10:30 a.m. Still had half a day ahead of me. Went back for more duck eggs, but found absolutely zero. The ducks had completely abandoned their nests after my morning massacre. Couldn't blame them. If a stone-throwing maniac had shot 3 of my neighbors, I'd move too. So I pivoted to mushroom gathering. The rain had turned the forest floor into a fungus supermarket. Ginger mushrooms, flat mushrooms, clam-sized mushrooms, all edible according to my encyclopedia. I filled my backpack 3 separate times, hauling load after load back to base. The perishable ones went into the pot with the snake meat. The ones that could be dried went up on the roof to bake in the afternoon sun. Stockpiling for winter like a very organized squirrel. Well, more organized than the squirrels I'd been eating. Then, right around 12:40, as I was about to sit down for lunch, a wave of scorching heat exploded from my stomach. NNGH, sweat erupted from every pore on my body simultaneously. In seconds, I was absolutely drenched, like someone had dumped a bucket of hot water inside my skin. My muscles burned. My blood felt like it was boiling. Then it clicked. The snake gallbladders. They're kicking in, 5 gallbladders. All at once. All hitting peak absorption at the exact same time. This was either going to make me superhuman or kill me in the most ironic way possible. Survived wolves, survived snakes. Died from eating the snake too fast. Let's find out. The snake gallbladders chose violence. 1 second I was standing there feeling nothing. The next my insides turned into a volcano. Heat erupted from my stomach and spread to every limb, like someone injected hot lava directly into my bloodstream. Sweat poured out of me like I was a sponge being squeezed by God. This is fine. This is totally fine. It was not fine. My face was probably glowing red enough to guide ships at sea. I ripped off my shirt and sprinted for the lake like a man on fire, because I basically was on fire, just from the inside. Splash. I cannonballed straight in. The freezing post-rain water hit my boiling skin, and it felt like heaven. Like that first sip of cold water after running a marathon. I floated there for 30 minutes, slowly cooling down while the gallbladders did their thing, burning through my body fat like a chemical furnace. When I finally waded out of the water, things were different. I looked down at my stomach. My little pot belly, the one I'd been growing from eating wolf meat and duck eggs nonstop, was gone. In its place, 6-pack abs. 6-pack abs. From eating snake organs. Wait, the gallbladders did this. The female viewers apparently lost their collective minds. I'm told the chat turned into something unprintable. Comments about wanting to touch my muscles, someone claiming they could, knit sweaters with their tongue, and several women competing over who had the most impressive qualifications to earn the right to feel my abs. I choose not to think too deeply about any of that. The TV host was literally staring at the screen with her mouth open. Professor Lee pulled up a before and after comparison on his tablet and confirmed it. My muscle definition had dramatically increased. The gallbladders had burned all my body fat and converted it into lean muscle. My grip strength alone had jumped about 30%. I picked up a hard dirt clod and accidentally crushed it to powder without even trying. 30% stronger. From 5 snake pills. And my country now had 10,000 snakes worth of gallbladders to feed to soldiers. The leadership had already locked down every single carcass as a strategic military resource. We were manufacturing super soldiers using snake parts. Then I smelled something. Something burning. Oh no. My snake stew. I'd completely forgotten about the pot on the fire. I sprinted back to the shelter and found the soup had boiled down to almost nothing. The pot was fine, barely, but my heart nearly stopped. That pot was my only cooking vessel. If it burned through, I'd be eating raw food for the rest of my life. Crisis averted by about 30 seconds. I tossed in some chopped green onions and salt, stirred it up, and took my first bite of 5-flower snake meat. Oh, my God. It was like chicken but better. Tender, slightly sweet, with this incredible fragrance that made the green onions sing backup vocals. People always told me venomous snakes taste the best, and I thought they were crazy. They were right. I demolished 1.5 pounds of snake meat so fast that I was actually sad when it was gone. Fueled by snake power, I headed west again. Yesterday rain had stopped me. Not today. Energy levels were through the roof. The gallbladders had me feeling like I'd chugged 10 energy drinks. I passed through a sparse tree line and stumbled onto something beautiful, a huge patch of wild rosehip bushes. The flowers were dead, but the fruits were perfectly ripe, little red jewels hanging everywhere. Rosehips are basically nature's vitamin C bombs. Every 100 grams contains up to 8,000 milligrams of vitamin C. That's insane. For context, an orange has about 50. These little berries had 160 times more. They could be eaten raw, brewed into tea, or made into jam. With these, I'd never worry about scurvy or vitamin deficiency all winter. Foreign chat was losing their will to live. Why does he keep finding everything? Is God his personal shopping assistant? Someone please send a bear to humble this man. My countrymen fired back with the precision of professional internet warriors. Your contestants can't even fill their stomachs. And you're mad that OURS found berries? Go cry about it. Then some foreigner typed. I hope a wolf shows up and teaches him a lesson. Ask, and you shall receive, buddy. Because I walked out of that forest and came face to face with another gray wolf. Standing right there. 5 meters away. Staring at me. Last time I fought a wolf, I was exhausted, it was dark, and my torch went out. I barely survived. This time, I was fed, rested, 30% stronger, running on snake gallbladder super juice, and absolutely buzzing with unused energy. I looked at the wolf. The wolf looked at me, and I smiled. Perfect timing, buddy. I was just thinking I need another wolf skin to finish my winter pants. I squared up, axe in hand, ready to make some pants. The wolf looked at me. I looked at the wolf. My intimidation skill was radiating, apex predator energy, at full blast. And this wolf turned around and ran. Hey, get back here. That's my pants. The coward just tucked its tail between its legs and bolted. Not even a growl. Not even a courtesy snarl. Just pure, shameless retreat. The wolf equivalent of screaming and running out of a haunted house. I chased it through the trees like a maniac screaming about trousers. The wolf heard me coming and somehow ran faster. In its little wolf brain, it was probably thinking, I just came out for a rabbit and now a demon is chasing me yelling about clothing. Chat was absolutely dying. Someone help, his pants are running away. Other contestants. Oh no, a wolf. Suhan's wolf. Oh, the pants guy. Wolf. You'll never catch me if I hit them with the drift, and that's exactly what happened. This galaxy brain wolf pulled a sharp turn and launched itself into the river. Just straight up dove in and started swimming like an Olympic athlete. By the time I reached the bank, it was already at the middle of the river, paddling away at full speed, probably muttering wolf swear words. I couldn't follow. Stripping down and swimming in autumn water would be suicide, and by the time I got undressed, this furry coward would be 3 zip codes away. Fine. You win this round, pants. The wolf climbed out on the other side, looked back at me, and visibly relaxed. Somewhere in the forest, a mother wolf was waiting for her husband to bring home dinner, not knowing he'd just barely escaped being turned into winter fashion. Respect the survival instinct, I guess. That wolf chose life over dignity, and honestly, smart move. The last wolf that tried to fight me got its skull caved in. Moving on. I picked up my backpack and kept exploring. And oh boy did the forest deliver. First find, Jerusalem artichokes. 30 chunks, 12 pounds total. These are basically the potatoes of the wilderness. Filling, tasty, and they grow like crazy. For separate resource returns triggered. 40,000 artichokes sent home. Then, wild rose hips. 2 pounds of tiny red vitamin C grenades. Every 100 grams contains 8,000 milligrams of vitamin C. That's 160 times more than an orange. Winter scurvy? Don't know her. Then, dandelions and fiddlehead ferns. The ferns are called king of mountain vegetables. Back home. Crunchy, slightly bitter, absolutely delicious. Most had gone dormant for autumn, but I scraped together enough for 2 days of eating. Finally something that wasn't meat. Then, and this is where I screamed internally, an entire hillside of wild blueberry bushes. Dozens of meters of them. I picked over 10 pounds of blueberries and my fingers turned purple. 3 hours of gathering. My backpack was so full it looked pregnant. By evening, I sat by the river eating boiled duck eggs and pulled up my skill panel. 19 skills total now. Let me hit the highlights. Breathing, level 33. My lungs were basically industrial air compressors. Sleep, level 27. I could fall into deep sleep on command, like a phone powering down. Throwing, level 16. 90% headshot rate at 7 meters. Intimidation, level 7. 30% chance to make wolves just leave, which would have been nice if that one wolf hadn't been in the other 70%. Night vision, level 12. I could see 4 meters in total darkness. By level 26, I'd literally have animal-grade night vision. Construction, level 12. I could build structures from imagination alone, no blueprints needed. Learning, level 8. Photographic memory unlocked. 19 skills. Day 5 wasn't even over. I popped a blueberry in my mouth and stared at the sunset over the river. Somewhere on the other side, a very traumatized wolf was explaining to his wife why he came home empty-handed and smelling like fear. Sorry, buddy. Next time, your pants. So that's why the wolf ran. My intimidation skill was at level 7. 30% chance to make wolves flee on sight. I was literally radiating, don't mess with me. Energy like a human bug zapper for predators. Cool, right? Wrong. Because if every animal runs away the moment it sees me, how am I supposed to hunt? Hey, system. Quick question. Yes, host? Can I turn off passive skills? Yes. Simply think the skill name followed by off. Thank God. Crisis averted. I'd been 2 days away from becoming the scariest hermit in the wilderness who couldn't catch a single rabbit because everything within 50 meters was having a panic attack. Anyway, I stood by the river and surveyed the landscape. 20 meters wide, crystal clear water, stone beaches on both sides. To the west, open plains leading to a mountain valley full of birdsong. To the east, big scary mountain, lots of predators, not worth the trouble. The west was clearly the treasure zone. If only I had a raft, I could explore way further. Filed that under spring project. Winter was coming and a frozen river doesn't care about your boat dreams. But you know what does grow by rivers? Reeds. Mountains of them. And reeds are basically the budget version of bamboo. You can weave them into fish traps, baskets, wind barriers, roof insulation. They're the dollar store answer to everything. I grabbed my axe and started harvesting. 1 swing per bundle. By sunset, I was hauling an enormous pile of reeds back home like a green scarecrow having the worst day of its life. Dinner. Roast duck with fiddlehead ferns and Jerusalem artichoke. With wild green onions on the side. This was a proper meal now, not just meat and sadness like the first few days. The artichoke added earthiness, the onions brought fragrance, and the ferns gave everything a fresh crunch. I was basically running a countryside restaurant with 0 customers and 5-star reviews. Only thing missing is garlic. I sighed. Because where I come from, meat without garlic is a crime against humanity. After dinner, craft time. I sat by the fire and started weaving a fish trap from the reeds. Ding! Handicraft skill unlocked. Your hands become more dexterous with each level. First attempt, clumsy. Reeds going everywhere. Looked like a bird's nest made by a drunk bird. But the skill XP was climbing with every weave, and within minutes my fingers were flying. Flatten the reeds, lay them out with gaps, weave horizontally, one over, one under, alternating pattern, pack them tight. Bend upward for the walls. Taper inward for the funnel entrance. Chat was speechless. I looked away for 1 minute and the pile of grass became a fish trap. My eyes understand, but my hands are filing a restraining order. 40 minutes. One professional-grade fish trap. 1 meter long, 30 centimeters wide. Perfectly cylindrical with a tapered entrance that fish could swim into but not back out of. Passive fishing, no babysitting required. I stuffed it with duck bones and inedible scraps, carried it to the lake, found a spot thick with water grass, because weeds mean fish, and sank it in, pinning it down with 4 stakes. Now I just check it morning and evening. The fish catch themselves. While I was at the lake, I figured, might as well take a bath. Jumped in, triggered the swimming skill naturally, and discovered that my enhanced body barely even felt the cold water. I did a lap around the shallows feeling like an Olympic swimmer, then decided that was enough exercise. Why swim laps when I could be home drinking rosehip tea and eating blueberries while reading my encyclopedia? Priorities, people. Priorities. Next morning, fog still hanging over the lake like a cotton blanket. I walked to my fish trap, grabbed the rope, and hauled it up. The trap was thrashing. Something inside was going absolutely crazy, splashing and flopping. I grinned so wide my face almost split in half. Ladies and gentlemen, we have fish. I dumped the fish trap onto my big reed basket, and it was like opening a piñata full of seafood. Palm-sized crucian carp, tilapia, and, the cherry on top, over a dozen freshwater shrimp bouncing around like they were at a tiny disco. 5 pounds of fish and shellfish from one overnight trap. I hadn't even been awake, and I was already catching food. The global notifications went off 5 times. 2 batches of tilapia, 2 batches of crucian carp, 1 batch of shrimp. All returned to my country at 10,000 times. My nation was basically getting a free aquarium delivery every morning now. Foreign viewers were broken. Our survival expert Ed spent an entire afternoon with a spear and caught 1 fish. This guy catches 5 pounds, I in his sleep. Meanwhile, Kimchi Nation had the absolute audacity to claim that fish trap weaving was originally their invention. Sure, buddy. And breathing was invented in France. Over in Ed's camp, the legendary survival master himself was actually impressed. He must be using a fish trap, a tool I've seen in Dragon Nation before. Brilliant. I need to figure out how to make one. Respect to Ed. At least he was learning instead of crying. Here's the thing about the fish trap that nobody seemed to understand. It's not just a fishing tool. It's a time machine. Instead of sitting by a river for hours holding a stick, the trap works while I'm sleeping, building, eating, doing literally anything else. The fish just swim in, can't get out, and wait for me to collect them like an underwater vending machine. And if I don't need them right away, just leave the trap in the water. It becomes a fish storage unit. Living fish, staying fresh, no refrigeration needed. Breakfast was a mountain of fish soup with green onions. The crucian carp here tasted like sea bass, zero muddy flavor, pure clean freshness. This world's ecology was pristine, no industrial pollution, no factory runoff. Just fish living their best lives until they wandered into my trap. 2 pounds of fish demolished. Hot soup in my belly. Morning exercise completed, can't break the streak. Day 6, logged. Then I spent the entire morning harvesting reeds by the river. Cut, bundle, carry home. Cut, bundle, carry home. 10 massive bundles total. When I got tired, I sat by the river eating blueberries in the breeze like a guy on vacation. When I got hungry, I ate leftover roast duck and cold fiddlehead ferns. Not glamorous, but fuel is fuel. I also collected spruce branches for making rope, stripped the bark off, and soaked them in the lake to soften the fibers. Takes 1 to 2 weeks, but once they're ready, I'd have cordage for everything. Reinforcing the house, building traps, sewing clothes, making a bowstring. Rope is the duct tape of the ancient world. I really need to get into the pottery age, I muttered. Everything takes forever without proper containers. That clay deposit on my map was calling to me. A kiln would change everything. But first, winter prep. The fish traps would handle food while I focused on the big project. By evening, I sat outside my front door and started weaving more fish traps. Handicraft skill was climbing fast. My second trap took only 20 minutes. Then a third. My fingers were moving so fast they were basically a blur. 3 new traps done. Stomach growling. Time to check the original trap. I hauled it up, and the splashing inside was even louder than this morning. The audience couldn't believe it. How many fish are in this lake? I reached inside the trap, and my hand closed around something that was definitely not a fish. Something long, thick, and squirming like an angry rope. I pulled it out with a grin. Ladies and gentlemen, look what we have here, 40 centimeters long. Writhing and twisting in my grip. The chat leaned in closer. A brand new species for the menu was about to debut. An eel. We got a 40-centimeter eel. I pulled this slippery golden beast out of my fish trap and held it up like a trophy. Chat went ballistic. One guy thought it was another snake and almost had a heart attack. But no, this was a rice field eel, and in my culture, this thing is considered a delicacy. Pure protein, incredible flavor, and supposedly very good for men's health. Not that I needed help in that department, but hey, vitamins are vitamins. No resource return this time, but honestly, nobody cared. They just wanted to watch me cook. And cook I did. See, most people in this survival game were still boiling everything in water or burning it over a fire like cavemen. But I had a secret weapon, duck fat. I'd been saving rendered duck oil, and tonight was the night it earned its place in history. I heated the pot, dropped in a chunk of golden duck fat, and the second it started sizzling, I threw in chopped wild green onions and Jerusalem artichoke. The aroma that erupted from that pan could have woken the dead. Then in went the eel, plus a splash of fish broth. Stir fry, baby. Real, actual, honest-to-God stir fry in the middle of the wilderness. The sizzling, the smoke, the smell. Fiddlehead ferns and mushrooms tossed in for texture. A pinch of salt to finish. I set the pot on my handmade table and took a bite. My taste buds held a parade. The eel was crispy golden on the outside, tender inside, coated in caramelized onion and ginger bits. This wasn't survival food. This was restaurant food. The TV host looked down at her gray paste dinner and sighed. I think I need to stop watching this during mealtimes. Professor Lee stared at his own bowl and couldn't bring himself to eat it. After dinner, I got serious. Winter was closing in, and I had a master plan. 4-layer wall insulation, inner reed mats, mud coating, then brick, then more mud, plus a heated sleeping platform. A calm, traditional northern-style brick bed with a fire channel underneath that keeps you warm all night. When it's -30 outside, you sleep on a Kong and feel like you're on a heated hotel mattress. But Kangs need bricks, and bricks need clay. Next morning, I was at the lakeside digging up clay before the sun was fully up. Mixed it with dry grass and water to prevent cracking. Pressed it into wooden molds I'd carved, 20 by 10 by 3 centimeters each. Perfect size. Too thick won't dry, too thin won't hold. Ding, pottery making skill unlocked. The system counted bricks as pottery. I'll take it. Back in the strategy room, my country's experts had been planning to use their monthly communication to teach me advanced techniques. Then they saw me already making bricks and burst out laughing. Never mind. He's already 3 steps ahead of us. This is what genius looks like, gentlemen. I cranked out 100 bricks before lunch. Lit small fires around them to speed dry instead of waiting 2 weeks for wind drying. Then I went and built an actual kiln. Dug a long trench, made a thick clay platform with air holes, stacked clay walls 15 centimeters thick, 1 meter tall. Slow heated it for hours to drive out moisture. By 4 o'clock, the flames inside were roaring and the walls had turned gray-white. Ready. I loaded the dried bricks, sealed the top, and set the kiln to cook overnight at gradually increasing temperature. 6 hours of slow baking. I just had to add wood occasionally and let physics do the rest. While the kiln cooked, I insulated my walls, reed mats tied to the exterior, sealed with mud. One more layer of defense against the coming cold. By 10 p.m., I checked the kiln. The bricks had turned a beautiful crimson red. Perfect. I sealed the top and headed home. Tomorrow we check the results. Good night, everyone. Chat was too excited to sleep. When other contestants finally build basic shelters, Suhan's already manufacturing building materials. The man isn't just surviving. He's speedrunning the entire history of human civilization. I'm already excited for the pottery phase. His hands are so skilled, he's probably going to make museum-quality ceramics. And then one female viewer. Sad he didn't take a bath today. No abs viewing. Devastating. To which the chat immediately responded. Go away. Thirst Brigade. Day 7. Bricks baking, walls insulated, fish traps working overtime, eels stir-fry in my belly, and a kiln glowing in the moonlight. Next stop, the ceramic age. Next morning I sprinted to the kiln before breakfast like a kid on Christmas. Popped the top off and gray-orange bricks, perfectly formed, staring back at me. I grabbed 2 and clacked them together. Clang, clang. Hard as rocks. You could use these as weapons. You could throw one at a bear, and the bear would file a police report. First batch, flawless. 1 attempt. No failures. I loaded batch 2 into the kiln and went home for breakfast. Then the grind began. For the next 3 days, my entire life was make bricks, fire bricks, lay bricks, repeat. Wake up, eat fish, make bricks. Eat more fish, fire bricks. Lay bricks on the floor. Eat even more fish. I went from 1 kiln to 4 kilns running simultaneously, 120 bricks per day rolling off the production line. I was basically an industrial revolution happening in one guy's backyard. The goal? A heated sleeping platform. A Kong. The legendary northern farmhouse invention that keeps you warm all winter using nothing but a fire channel under a brick bed. Not just any Kong, either. Of Thelone Kong, returning dragon, style, where the smoke path zigzags back and forth inside, maximizing heat absorption. I dug the channels, laid bricks along the floor in a winding pattern, sealed everything with clay, and built it against 3 walls of my shelter. The front side would have a cooking stove built right in, so every time I cooked dinner, the heat would travel under my bed and keep me warm all night. 3 centimeters of clay on top of the bricks. Very important. Without that layer, you'd wake up with grill marks on your back. Trust me, that's first-hand childhood experience talking. Day 3. Evening. Last brick placed. Kong complete. Then I went outside to build the chimney. Bricks stacked in a square column, each layer offset from the one below, staggered joint masonry, so wind couldn't knock it over. 1.5 meters tall, connected directly to the Kang's exhaust. 7 p.m. Done. I stood back and looked at my chimney against the darkening sky with the kind of pride that probably violates several humility laws. Heating problem. Solved. I went inside and lit the stove for the first time. Flames crawled through the channels under the Kong, and the brick surface started releasing little wisps of steam as the clay dried. By bedtime, this thing would be a full-body heating pad. While the Kong dried, I brewed rosehip tea in an ugly gray clay pot I'd made a couple days earlier. It looked like something a child would make in art class and get a C-. But it worked. Hot water, hot tea, no complaints. I was sipping tea and reading my encyclopedia, 70% finished now, practically memorized, when a global announcement dropped. Notice, today is the final day of the beginner phase. Starting tomorrow, normal difficulty begins. Large predators will appear more frequently. Bears are now entering the wilderness. Weekly missions will be issued. Rewards include intelligence reports, food, seasonings, basic resources, and national luck points. Rankings determine bonus rewards. Failure to complete missions deducts 3 luck points. Bears. Bears were joining the party. I scrolled through the reward details. Intelligence reports would reveal resource locations on my map. Extremely useful. Food rewards came with no expiration and stored in a system pocket dimension. Basically a magic lunchbox. Seasonings included sugar, pepper, soy sauce. The random resource pool was pure gambling, though. You could get rope, candles, or a lump of cow dung. Literally cow poop was in the prize pool. I imagined someone from Curry Nation winning that and actually being thrilled about it. Meanwhile, the rest of the world was panicking. America, bears? Our contestants just stopped starving. This is unfair. I demand a complaint. Kimchi Nation, don't let the bears near my pretty boy idol. And then immediately. Oh, he already ran into one. He's holding a chicken and a bear smelled the blood. That pop star park guy had just caught his first grouse after days of crying. And now a bear was heading straight for him because of the fresh blood. Comedy writes itself. As for me, I sat on my brand new heated Kong, drinking tea from my ugly pot, completely unbothered. Bears were scary, sure. But I had a fortified underground bunker, a chimney for brick kills, enhanced strength from snake gallbladders, level 16 throwing accuracy, and an axe that had already tasted wolf blood twice. The only thing I was worried about was eating too much fish. If that coward wolf hadn't jumped in the river, I'd have pants and variety in my diet, I grumbled. Somewhere across the valley, a certain wolf sneezed. I was minding my own business, sipping rosehip tea on my heated Kong like a civilized human being, when the best piece of entertainment in survival game history unfolded on another channel. That pretty boy pop star from Kimchi Nation, Park Whatever, had finally caught a grouse after days of starving and crying. His first real meal in over a week. He was walking home in the dark, feeling proud of himself for once in his miserable life, when he bumped into something big and warm. Being the spoiled celebrity he was, his first instinct was to start cursing. Who's standing behind me? I'll call 500 bodyguards too. Then he touched it. Furry. Warm. Very large. He looked up. A 2-meter-tall brown bear was staring down at him in the moonlight. Park's entire body shut down. Every system offline. He collapsed on the spot, and, how do I say this delicately, released everything. Every fluid his body was capable of producing. The grouse he'd spent hours catching wiggled free and started hopping away. The bear casually scooped it up with one paw and ate it like a grape. Then the bear looked down at Park, lying in his own mess on the ground, and sniffed him. The bear recoiled. It thought Park was a toilet. And so, on live television, broadcast to billions, a brown bear turned around, positioned itself directly over Park's face, and took the most aggressive dump in the history of wildlife television. 300 million viewers tuned in to watch this moment. The ratings for Park's stream went from 10 million to 300 million in minutes. He became the most watched contestant on the planet, and it was because a bear used his face as a restroom. When the bear finally left, Park spent the next 10 minutes vomiting so hard, he nearly turned inside out. His grouse was gone. His dignity was gone. His will to live was hanging by a thread. Chat was merciless. First human in history to be killed by bear poop. He didn't move for a full minute under there. That's actually impressive survival instinct. The bear even buried its mess afterward. More civilized than some people I know. I laughed so hard my Kong almost cracked. Then, at midnight, the first weekly mission dropped. Hunting challenge. Collect 32 hunting points in 4 days. Small animals, 1 point. Fish and birds, 2 points. Large prey, 20 points. Large predators, 40 points. Apex predators, bears 100 points. But any single category maxes out at 16 points. So you couldn't just catch 16 fish and call it done. You needed variety. Most contestants panicked. 32 points meant you needed kills across multiple categories, and most of these people could barely catch a single meal. Failure to hit 32 would cost your country 3 luck points. The TV host frowned. This is really hard. You can't just fish your way through it. Professor Lee wasn't worried at all. For Suhan, 32 points is a morning walk. I'm more interested in whether he goes for the bonus. Because yes, there was a global leaderboard. Top 15 got extra rewards. First place got something special. And killing a bear? That unlocked a unique title. Ed, the English survival veteran, was already planning. Fish for 16 points, then trap squirrels and rabbits for the rest. Solid strategy. Our fishing bro gang was probably thinking the same. But me? I was lying on my warm brick bed, doing math in my head. Fish, 2 points each, max 16. Easy, I had 4 fish traps. Birds, ducks, grouse 2 points each, max 16. Easy, I had level 16 throwing and the lake was full of targets. That's already 32 right there. Mission complete before breakfast. But that would be boring. A bear was worth 100 points. And there was a special title attached. I closed my eyes and smiled. Tomorrow was going to be fun. I woke up on my heated Kong, and for the first time in this entire adventure, I did not want to get out of bed. The brick bed was so warm, so perfectly toasty, that my brain was screaming, just 5 more minutes, like a teenager on a school day. But champions don't sleep in. Champions get up and murder things for points. Breakfast, exercise check-in, then I reviewed the hunting mission. 32 points in 4 days. Fish and birds max out at 16 each, so variety was mandatory. My plan? Ignore the small stuff entirely. Squirrels and rabbits were worth 1 point each, peasant numbers. I was going straight for the big game. But first, free points. I had 4 fish traps sitting in the lake doing my homework for me while I slept. I pulled up the first trap, and the scoring system immediately started judging my fish. Small fish detected, 0.5 points. Half a point? For a whole fish? Tiny fish detected, 0 points. Too small to count, 0? I caught a fish, and the game said, that doesn't count, try harder. I flipped off the sky on principle. But 3 traps later, I'd scraped together 16 points from fish and eels. 7 a.m., and I was already number 1 on the global leaderboard. While every other contestant was still rubbing sleep out of their eyes, I was done with half the mission. Then some Russian guy named Ivanov knocked me to second place. 20 points. He'd been hiding in a bush since 3 in the morning and ambushed a mountain goat at dawn. 4 hours of lying in cold grass for 1 kill. The man was insane in the best possible way. He was on camera, roasting goat meat over a fire, screaming, "The champion will be me. You are AA," with the energy of a guy who'd been awake for 30 hours on pure willpower. Respect. Genuinely terrifying, but respect. Bear Guy, the English celebrity, had woken up to find 2 rats and a rabbit in his traps. For whole points. He looked at the camera and declared, "This time, I'm competing for first place against that Dragon Nation contestant. I'll show him who the real wilderness master is." He was ranked 126th. 126th. And talking about beating me, the delusion was almost admirable. Meanwhile, Monkey Nation's contestant went digging for eels in river mud and accidentally grabbed a venomous snake with his bare hands. Got 2 points for it though, so technically a win. He threw it about 15 meters, and his face turned whiter than snow. Our fishing bro gang was doing what he does best, sitting by a river with a line in the water, peacefully accumulating points. Smart, steady, boring in the best way. And Maple Nation's genius had stayed up all night fishing, earned 8 points by morning, then immediately passed out from exhaustion. Half a mission done, 0 energy left. Questionable time management. Most contestants had started in the middle of the night, sacrificing sleep for a head start. Some got lucky. Most didn't. And a few probably ran into bears in the dark because the announcers kept reporting new death notifications. Me? I slept a full 8 hours on my heated brick bed, woke up refreshed, collected 16 free points from robot fish traps, and then started my actual hunting day. I strapped 3 wooden spears to my back, each 1.5 meters long, sharpened to a wicked point. Axe on my hip, and one more secret weapon that nobody else had, my telescope. Most of the time, the monocular from my starter pack was useless. But for hunting, it was game-changing. I could spot animal tracks, movement, and feeding grounds from hundreds of meters away while every other contestant had to stumble around hoping they'd trip over something edible. I headed east toward the mountains. Somewhere out there were deer, wolves, and maybe, just maybe, a bear worth 100 points. The Russian was in first place with 20 points and a belly full of goat. But I had a heated house, 4 fish traps, 3 spears, a telescope, and 19 skills leveling up with every step I took. The hunt was on. First things first, reconnaissance. I found a massive birch tree by the lake, 1/2 meter thick, branches everywhere, and started climbing. Axe carved footholds, 10 meters up in 7 minutes. Ding, climbing skill unlocked. Of course it did. At this point I was half expecting a blinking skill to pop up. From up there, I could see everything. The duck armada floating on the lake. Big fish breaching the surface like tiny whales. Beautiful birds cruising around the center. To the west, endless plains. And to the east, my target, a golden autumn mountain covered in forest. I pulled out my telescope and started scanning. Within 30 seconds, spotted. One adult spotted deer, casually munching grass on the mountainside like it had 0 problems in life. Panned down to a stream. A second deer, male this time, massive, white spots all over. Beautiful animal. Terrible life expectancy now that I'd seen it. Further south, 2 lone wolves. One eating a rabbit, one napping. Below them, a white fox darting through the trees. Filed all of that under future points, down the tree. Backpack on. Headed straight for the deer. 30 minutes of hiking brought me to the area. The stream deer had vanished, probably went home. So I stashed my backpack under rocks, armed up with my spears, and went full stealth mode. Potted skills update, stealth level 9. At this level, Anything beyond 3 meters couldn't hear me at all as long as I didn't do something stupid. With cover? Basically invisible. I started creeping through the forest. And when I say creeping, I mean my feet made literally zero sound. Not quiet, not soft, zero. Silent as a shadow on a cloud. Chat freaked out. I maxed my phone volume, and I can't hear his footsteps. I used to think assassins in TV shows were unrealistic. I owe those writers an apology. This man learned actual stealth. He's a real-life ninja. Through the trees I spotted them. Not just 2 deer, but a whole group. 10 spotted deer. 2 males, the rest females and fawns. Standing in a clearing 20 meters ahead. 20 meters was too far. I needed to get closer. Inch by inch. Tree to tree. Bush to bush. 15 meters. 10 meters. A female suddenly lifted her head and stared directly at my position. I froze behind a tree trunk without breathing. She looked around, saw nothing, and went back to eating. 5 meters. 4 meters. 3 meters. The edge of my stealth safety zone. Any closer, and I risked detection. So I waited. 20 minutes I lay flat in the grass, motionless, merged with the earth like a human-shaped patch of dirt. The deer wandered around, lounged, nibbled mushrooms. One female was right in front of me, 3 meters away, completely oblivious that a predator was watching her eat lunch. Then she turned around. The instant her body shifted, I exploded forward like a coiled spring. 1 meter closed in a heartbeat. Spear up. Spear down. Thunk. The wooden spear punched clean through her neck. She let out one weak cry, staggered, and collapsed. The entire herd looked up, saw me erupting from the grass like a horror movie villain, and bolted in every direction. Hooves thundering, branches cracking, pure panic. I didn't chase. I didn't need to. 1 deer was plenty. First big catch of the day, everyone. Lunch is upgraded. The announcements cascaded. Resource return triggered. Dragon Nation receives 10,000 female spotted deer. You earned 20 hunting points. Leaderboard updated. You are now rank 1 with 36 points. You have completed this week's hunting mission, 36 points. Mission requirement was 32. Done. Finished. Before lunchtime on day 1 of a 4-day challenge. The Russian goat killer was sitting at 20 points thinking he was hot stuff, and I just lapped him without breaking a sweat. Chat erupted. Mission complete in half a day. This man is not human, but here's the thing. I wasn't stopping. 36 points was enough to pass. It was not enough to win. First place got special rewards, and I wanted every single one of them. So instead of heading home with my deer like any reasonable person would, I threw that 100-pound carcass over my shoulders and started walking in the opposite direction of my house. Chat went confused. Wait, where's he going? Home is that way. Home can wait. There were wolves on that southern mountain, each one worth 40 points. And somewhere in this forest, there was a bear worth 100. The hunt wasn't over. It was just getting started. Chat was freaking out watching me carry a bleeding deer toward wolf territory. Go home first. You're going to attract predators. This is so reckless. Then one genius viewer figured it out. Wait. He's doing this on purpose. He's using the deer as bait. Correct. Gold star for that guy. System, turn off stealth and intimidation. Instantly, my footsteps went from silent ninja to regular loud human. My terrifying predator aura vanished completely. I was now broadcasting, helpless injured man carrying meat, energy to every carnivore within a mile. But I needed to sell it harder. So I dipped my fingers in the deer's blood and smeared it all over myself. Arms, legs, chest. Made myself look like I'd been in a fight and barely survived. Ding, disguise skill unlocked. Higher levels improve the quality and believability of your camouflage. 20 skills and counting. Then the chill hit. That familiar tingle on the back of my neck. You have been targeted by an unknown creature. Danger sense XP1. That was fast, I grinned. Time for the performance of a lifetime. I dropped to the ground, pretending I couldn't move properly, dragging myself pathetically across the dirt, moaning, looking terrified, struggling to crawl away from the dead deer like a wounded animal making its last desperate escape. Oscar-worthy. Academy Award for Best Actor in a Wilderness Murder Scheme. 5 minutes of crawling. The wolf was watching from the bushes, getting closer but still cautious. Smart dog. It was studying me, checking if this was real. I noticed the bushes rustling, and threw a stone at the wolf, intentionally weak, intentionally short. The stone plopped onto the ground halfway there like I'd used my last ounce of strength. The wolf saw that pathetic throw and made its decision. This prey was done. Easy meal. It stepped out of the grass, bared its fangs, and charged. 20 meters closed in seconds. 10, 5, 3, 2, gotcha. I exploded off the ground, flipped my intimidation skill back on at full blast, and roared directly into the wolf's face. The sound hit it like a physical wall. Its eyes went wide. Its legs stuttered mid-leap. Gray wolf's combat power has been severely reduced by your intimidation. In that frozen half-second of confused wolf panic, I grabbed my spear with both hands and drove it straight through the thing's throat. Ding! Spear combat. Skill unlocked. The wolf hit the dirt, pinned through the neck, thrashing and howling. Still alive, still fighting. I kicked the second spear into my hand and slammed it through the skull. Lights out. Chat went insane. This man just method-acted a wolf to death. Wolf's last thought. Wait. He's not injured? I've been catfished. Other players hunt. Suhan performs. This was a one-man theater production with a live wolf as the unwilling co-star. Someone give this man an Emmy and a hunting license. The announcements rolled. Resource. Return triggered. Dragon Nation receives 10,000 gray wolf carcasses. You earned 40 hunting points. Leaderboard. Rank 1, Suhan, 76 points. Rank 2, Ivanov, 20 points, 76 points. The mission needed 32. The second place guy had 20. I had nearly 4 times his score, and it wasn't even lunchtime. Now came the logistics problem. 1 deer, 70 pounds. 1 wolf, 90 pounds. Total, 160 pounds of dead animal, and only 2 arms to carry them. I buried the wolf under rocks and leaves, sprinted the deer home, sprinted back, dug up the wolf, still there, no thieves, and hauled it down the mountain. Just as I reached the base of the hill, a sound ripped through the forest from the north that made every bird within a kilometer take flight simultaneously. A deep, earth-shaking roar that vibrated in my chest cavity. I stopped walking. Only one thing in this forest makes a sound like that. A bear. Somewhere on that northern mountain, a 100-point bounty with claws and teeth had just announced its location to the entire valley. I looked at the wolf on my shoulders. I looked toward the northern forest. I looked at my 3 spears. Not today, but soon. Very, very soon. Everyone heard the roar. The entire forest heard the roar. Birds evacuated like they'd received a fire alarm. My viewers immediately split into 2 camps. My countrymen, don't you dare go toward that sound. Foreign viewers, yes. Go. Let the bear eat you. Please. I dropped the wolf and walked straight toward the roaring. Chat had a collective aneurysm. But here's the thing. I wasn't being reckless. I was being curious. There's a difference. A reckless person charges at a bear. A curious person sneaks up on one to gather intelligence for a future assassination. Stealth on. Intimidation off. Ghost mode activated. I slipped through the forest like a shadow with a business plan, climbed a tall tree in seconds, climbing skill doing its thing, and peeked through the branches. What I saw was nature's version of a UFC match. A gray bear, easily 300 pounds, was fighting 2 wolves simultaneously. One wolf was already limping badly, but neither was retreating. That was unusual. Wolves are smart. They don't fight losing battles. I pulled out my telescope and scanned the area. There, a small cave behind the wolves. 2 tiny wolf cubs, gray-white, huddled together, maybe 2 months old. They're protecting their babies. The bear had spawned at midnight when the difficulty increased, probably wandered into wolf territory looking for a den, and the parent wolves had no choice but to fight. It wasn't about winning. It was about buying time. Could I jump in and steal the kill while they were all distracted? I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds, then said no. Not because I felt sorry for the wolf family, though the parent thing was admirable, but because I had 3 wooden sticks against a 300-pound killing machine that was famous for being the fastest bear species. Gray bears aren't as strong as brown bears, but they're agile enough to chase you down without breaking a sweat. Going in without proper weapons was suicide with extra steps. Pass. For now, I memorized the terrain, noted the bear's size and behavior, and silently climbed back down. Behind me, one wolf let out a terrible scream. They were losing. But that wasn't my fight. My fight would come later, on MY terms, with better weapons and a proper trap. Because I was already doing the math. 300 pounds of bear meant 150 pounds of meat, plus a massive fur coat for winter, plus bear intestines, bear kidneys, and other bear parts that are supposedly very beneficial for men's health. Not that I needed it, but waste not, want not. 100 hunting points. A special title. Enough meat for weeks. And the warmest coat in the entire game. That bear was mine. Not today. I went home, skinned the wolf in 30 minutes flat, then the deer in 20. Butchering level 8 was making me disturbingly efficient at disassembling animals. The hides went into the tanning trough with brain and fat mixture. The deer fat I saved separately. That was going to be my new cooking oil. With green onions and Jerusalem artichoke to kill the gamey smell, I'd basically have a frying station. Lunch was stewed deer meat, slow-cooked for an hour and a half while I worked. The first bite made me stop chewing and just appreciate life. It tasted like beef, but with finer texture, not dry at all, and there was this subtle nutty sweetness that made my eyes go wide. This is incredible. Makes wolf meat taste like cardboard. While eating, I started planning the bear hunt. Frontal assault? Obviously suicidal. Traps? A pit would need to be enormous. The bear was over 2 meters standing up. 3 meters deep? 4? And wooden spikes probably couldn't penetrate its thick hide from below. Unless I combined a pit trap with an aerial attack. Get it trapped, then spear it through the eye socket from above. Directly into the brain. One shot. Risky? Absolutely. But doable with the right preparation. I checked the leaderboard. Still first with 76 points. Second place had changed. Ed from England passed the Russian with a goat kill, scoring 22 points total. Adorable. The English immigrants were celebrating Ed's goat like it was Christmas morning. Finally, we'll eat well tonight. Then the food arrived in their slave quarters. Everyone froze. I didn't get to see what they received, but based on their expressions, eating well was apparently a very generous description of whatever landed in front of them. Some days, the jokes just write themselves. Meanwhile, back in England's slave quarters, the immigrants finally got their share of Ed's goat kill. They'd been drooling for hours, imagining tender roasted lamb chops, maybe a nice stew. What arrived was a cart full of unwashed intestines, lymph nodes, and goat testicles, still full of poop pellets. The smell alone could have been classified as a chemical weapon. The English soldiers hadn't even bothered to clean them properly. Just a quick boil, and here you go, dogs. One immigrant, a former chef, politely asked if he could at least prepare the offal properly. The guard kicked him to the ground. You're a slave. Eat it, or I feed it to actual dogs. They ate it. On their knees. While back in MY country, officials were distributing real meat through a fair lottery system. Every family gets a turn. Nobody kneels. Choices, people. Choices. Anyway, afternoon mission. Find smoking wood. I had a mountain of deer and wolf meat that would rot in 2 days without preservation. Smoking meat requires specific wood. No pine, no spruce, nothing resinous. You need hardwood or fruit wood that burns clean with aromatic smoke. Oak, hickory, maple, those are the good ones. I headed south, a direction I'd never explored. 3 hills later, a beautiful plain with 3 separate forests and foxes playing in the clearings like a nature documentary. Telescope out. Left forest, spruce trees with medicinal seed pods. Good for cough medicine, noted for later. Center forest, pine and maple mix, absolutely gorgeous red autumn leaves. Maple would work for smoking in a pinch. Then I swung the telescope to the right forest, near where my clay deposit was marked, and I dropped the telescope away from my eye. Looked again. Rubbed my eyes. Looked a 3rd time. No. Way, guys. We're rich. I sprinted across that plain like my life depended on it. 30 minutes of running until I stood beneath a tall, straight tree with gray-brown bark that was giving off the most incredible smell I'd encountered since arriving in this world. I plucked a leaf, crushed it between my fingers, and inhaled. Cinnamon. Well, not exactly cinnamon. Frost cinnamon. A cold climate cousin of the cinnamon tree that evolved to survive freezing temperatures. Evergreen year-round, blooms in winter, grows fastest during snowfall. And its bark? Pure, concentrated, aromatic gold. Professor Lee nearly fell out of his chair on live television. That a cinnamon tree. The host was confused. But cinnamon is a tropical plant. This is the wilderness world. They have poop-flavored fruit. A cold-weather cinnamon tree is completely possible, and he was right. The leaves double as seasoning. Dried and ground into powder, it becomes the most versatile spice in existence. And long-term consumption reduces the risk of frostbite. In a world where winter lasts 5 months, Lee was practically weeping with joy. Our country has been buying cinnamon from foreign nations at ridiculous prices for years. And now we have our own source. I immediately started harvesting bark and digging up small saplings to transplant near my house. Frost cinnamon isn't picky about soil. Give it cold weather, and it thrives. In 3 years, I'd have a full-grown tree at my front door. A personal spice factory. The resource return triggered, and my nation received thousands of frost cinnamon saplings. Agricultural departments across the country were probably already planning plantations. But I wasn't done shopping. Frost cinnamon was too potent to use as primary smoking wood. The flavor would overpower everything. It was perfect for the finishing stage of smoking, but I still needed a milder wood for the main process. Oak or maple? That was the remaining shopping list item. I looked across the plain at the maple forest, its red leaves glowing in the afternoon sun like a painting. All right, one more stop before dinner. 3 forests explored. Medicinal spruce pods, smoking-grade maple, and the single most valuable spice tree in the entire survival game. All within walking distance of my house. At this point, the foreign viewers had stopped being angry and just looked tired, like they'd given up hating me and switched to reluctant admiration. Is his entire island made of treasure? Does he live on a resource spawn point? No, friends. I just actually look for things instead of sitting in a cave crying about how unfair life is. There's a difference. I harvested the frost cinnamon bark carefully. Can't ring cut the trunk or the tree dies, even cold-resistant ones. Side branches and patches only. 12 trees in this grove, so there was plenty to go around. Filled my backpack with bark strips, then stuffed my pockets with dried cinnamon leaves until I looked like a walking spice cabinet. Then, while poking around the forest looking for smoking wood, I spotted something that made my legs move before my brain gave permission. Blue-purple flowers. Climbing up a tree trunk. Scaled, round petals, almost done blooming for the season. No, is that? I ripped off a flower, examined it, and my heart started racing. Kudzu root. Wild kudzu, growing right here in my backyard forest. Guys, we're rich. Again, for anyone who doesn't know, kudzu root is the Swiss Army knife of wilderness food. It's a legume root vegetable that's part medicine, part emergency ration. Too tough, not the tastiest thing ever, but here's the magic. It lasts a month in cool storage. Slice it thin and sun-dry it. 1-year shelf life. High in starch, incredibly portable, perfect for long exploration trips. Professor Lee was on fire back in the studio. He's not. He deliberately chose to settle near water, because water means biodiversity. A lake this size guarantees rich plant and animal life nearby. Finding kudzu isn't luck, it's strategy paying off. Thank you, Professor. Someone finally gets it. Day 1, when everyone thought I was a broken robot standing in a field grinning, I was actually planning. Every hour of searching for the perfect location was an investment, and now it was paying dividends every single day. I dug down 30 centimeters and found a big chunk of yellow-brown root. Beautiful. But my backpack was already bursting with cinnamon bark, so the kudzu would have to wait. I abandoned the fruitwood search and grabbed some maple instead. Good enough for now. Sprinted home. Then meat prep began. I sliced the deer and wolf meat into 4-centimeter strips, thin enough to smoke properly, thick enough to still have texture afterward. Tossed them into the wooden trough with crushed cinnamon leaves, wild green onions, and bark strips, then massaged everything together by hand. No salt, though. I wanted to add salt, but my supply was critically low. Hundreds of pounds of meat. The math didn't work. Saltless smoking it was. While the meat marinated, I built a proper smoking pit. Not the tiny brick kilns. Those were too small for this volume. I dug a long rectangular pit 1/2 meter deep, packed the walls tight, lined them with wooden boards sealed with clay, then built 1/2-meter walls of brick on top. Basically a budget tandoori oven, but for smoking. Reusable forever, rainproof, and big enough for all the meat. I'm a genius, I announced to nobody. Then I lit a charcoal base, hung the meat strips on peeled branch racks. Peeled, because tree bark releases resin when heated and ruins everything, and layered in damp maple wood and cinnamon leaves. The wet would hit the hot coals and poof, thick, fragrant smoke billowed up instantly. I slapped brick lids on top with tiny gaps for airflow, and the smoking pit was officially operational. 6 hours until the first batch was done. Now I had to go dig kudzu. My legs were already filing a formal protest. My arms had joined the strike. Even my back was sending strongly worded letters. No wonder ancient people domesticated animals for transportation, I groaned. Running everywhere on foot is exhausting. Then a thought crossed my mind. Horses would be impossible to catch out here. But what about other ride-able animals? What if I tamed a bear as a mount? I stood there for a good 30 seconds, genuinely considering whether I could ride a 300-pound gray bear to the grocery forest and back. The answer was probably no. But probably isn't definitely filed under future projects. What am I even thinking? Riding a bear to the grocery store. I laughed at my own stupidity. I didn't even have a proper weapon yet, and my brain was already designing bear saddles. But the wolf cub idea? That actually had legs. If the system turned everything into a skill, raising animals would definitely trigger a taming skill. Those 2 baby wolves from this morning, if the bear hadn't eaten them, could become guard dogs for my house. But first, kudzu. That root wasn't going to dig itself up. I grabbed my big shovel and went to work. First root, 40 centimeters long, covered in little tendrils. Nice. I can't do this anymore, guys. I physically cannot. They won't stop. Every root leads to more roots. I found the mother root, the great ancestor of all kudzu. And I am defeated. Chat was in tears laughing. He started so excited, so full of hope. Then the kudzu broke him. Suhan's greatest enemy isn't bears or wolves. It's vegetables. Centuries from now, Suhan will stand as ruler of the world, and he will still have nightmares about that afternoon with the kudzu. 3 resource returns triggered during my 2-hour excavation. So at least my country got a massive kudzu supply. After a 30-minute break where I questioned every life decision that led me to this hole in the ground, I sorted the roots, kept the young tender ones, ditched the old woody ones. Then 6 trips back and forth to haul everything home. Washed them in the lake. Sliced them into thin chips. Spread them on the roof to dry. Dinner was stewed deer meat with boiled kudzu and a pinch of frost cinnamon bark. The kudzu cooked soft like potato, slightly sweet, creamy, with a hint of bitterness that the cinnamon completely masked. With the rich deer broth? Incredible. Finally something starchy to balance all the meat. My diet was becoming legitimately well-rounded. Now, the part one only found out about later, which was the real entertainment of the day. The Russian guy, Ivanov, woke up after sleeping all day, confident he was still in second place. He opened the leaderboard and his soul left his body. 5th place. He'd been passed by 3 people while napping. I was still first with 76 points, obviously. But 2nd through 4th were. Interesting. 2nd place. Curry Nation's contestant, Sanjay. 28 points. He caught a young cow. How? By hiding inside a pile of cow dung for hours. Full camouflage. Dung on his face, his hair, his everything. A baby cow walked over to use the dung pile as a bathroom. And, surprise, a poop-covered man erupted from the ground and speared it through the heart. The cow never saw him because he smelled like the environment. Ivanov watched the replay in slow motion and nearly threw up. 3rd place. Ed from England. 27 points. Goat, rabbits, squirrels. Solid, respectable, boring. 4th place. Park from Kimchi Nation. 21 points. The crybaby. The guy who got pooped on by a bear. And he somehow killed a wild boar. Ivanov clicked the replay, expecting some masterclass hunting technique. What he got was Park, still covered in bear feces from last night, stumbled into a family of wild boars. The boars took one whiff of him and completely panicked. In the chaos, a baby boar ran off a cliff and died. That counted as a kill. 20 points for A, large prey. The man hunted a pig by smelling so bad it committed suicide. Ivanov stared at the screen for a full minute, then whispered, This also counts as hunting. Yes, Ivanov. In this game, everything counts. Skill, strategy, patience, and apparently, being so thoroughly covered in bear excrement that wildlife would rather die than be near you. I took a bite of my cinnamon-spiced deer stew, savored the kudzu, and smiled. This competition was the greatest show on earth. After dinner, I headed for the eastern mountain in the dark. No torch needed. Night vision level 13 turned the world into a black and white movie where I could see 6 meters in every direction crystal clear. 20 minutes of speed walking, and I was back at the wolf versus bear battlefield. Stealth on. Intimidation off. Ghost mode. The scene was grim. One wolf, the mother, was lying there with only half her body remaining. The bear had eaten the rest like a buffet. The father wolf was nowhere to be seen outside. I crept toward the cave, every sense on high alert. If that bear was sleeping inside, I needed to know before I walked in, not after. Peeked inside. No bear. Just the father wolf, dead on the cave floor. He'd driven off the bear, but bled out from his wounds afterward. Died protecting his babies. Even as a guy who turns wolves into pants, I had to respect that. And there, huddled behind the father's body, 2 tiny gray wolf cubs, maybe 5 weeks old, shaking like furry little earthquakes, pressed together, terrified of literally everything. Well, hello there, my future guard dogs. I scooped them up, one in each hand. Left cub, instant panic mode, curled into a ball, tail tucked so tight it disappeared. Right cub, stared directly into my eyes with this intense little expression like, "I'm memorizing your face for the revenge arc. Good boy," I told the brave one. "That attitude will serve you well." Into the backpack they went, protesting loudly the entire time. Now, about the parents. I looked at the father wolf's body and thought about skinning it. A wolf pelt blanket would be nice. Then I looked at the 2 orphan cubs squirming in my bag. Nah, I'm not a monster. I just killed their dad's colleague yesterday. Using his parents' skin as a rug while raising them felt like a villain origin story I didn't want to write. I buried both wolves. Covered the graves with stones so scavengers wouldn't dig them up. The mother only had half a body left, but she got the same treatment. Everyone deserves dignity. Then I checked my score. The dead wolves in the cave? 16 free hunting points. Didn't even have to fight for them. They were already dead when I found them. Total score, 92 points. On day 1 of a 4-day challenge. Chat was bewildered. We thought he was going to fight the bear, and instead he came back with puppies. Other contestants can't feed themselves, and this man is adopting pets. Back home, I set the cubs down inside the shelter. They immediately bolted into the firewood pile and hid. Classic new puppy behavior. Except these puppies could one day rip a man's throat out. I put some warm deer broth and meat chunks in a clay bowl and went outside to check the smoking pit. When I came back, both cubs had their faces buried in the bowl, tearing into the deer meat like they hadn't eaten in 24 hours, which, honestly, they probably hadn't. No mother means no milk since this morning. The gray one heard my footsteps, looked up with meat juice on its tiny muzzle, and growled at me. Growled. This thing was the size of a football, and it was trying to intimidate the guy who killed wolves with his bare hands. "Oh, you want to play it like that?" Flick. Right on the forehead. "YP." The cub yelped and tried to run. I caught it. Flick. Flick. Ding. Taming skill unlocked. Higher levels make domestication easier. Combines with intimidation for bonus taming speed. See, taming wolves works exactly like training dogs. If they growl at you, they need to learn immediately that you're the alpha. In wolf pack dynamics, this is called the head wolf effect. You don't hurt them. You just make it absolutely clear who's in charge. 3 forehead flicks later, the gray cub went from, "I'll fight you," to, "Please, sir, I'm sorry, I'll be good forever." It scurried back into the firewood pile and watched me with wide, fearful eyes. The other cub, the timid one, hadn't moved from behind the wood the entire time. Smart. Very smart. Learn from your brother's mistakes. I sat down at my table with a cup of rosehip tea and looked at my little family. 2 orphan wolf cubs hiding in my firewood. A smoking pit full of deer jerky outside. A heated brick bed. 92 hunting points. Day 8 in the wilderness, and I was a single dad with 2 kids, a house, a job, and the highest score on the planet. Mom would be so proud. If she could see past the wolf blood. Next morning, woke up naturally. Swung my legs off the heated Kong to get dressed, and stepped on something warm and squishy. What the? Whimper. Oh right. I have children now. The two wolf cubs had apparently decided that sleeping directly under my bed was peak real estate. Couldn't blame them. The Kong radiated heat downward, so the floor underneath was basically a heated dog bed. Smart little monsters. I checked the system panel and discovered there were actual taming progress bars. Wolf Cub 1. Unnamed. Taming progress. 12%. Wolf Cub 2. Unnamed. Taming progress. 28%. I should probably name you guys. The gray one, the feisty punk who growled at me last night, became Big Gray. Simple, descriptive, no nonsense. The white-ish timid one who hadn't caused a single problem? Erha, which basically translates to second dummy, a nickname for huskies back home. Because this cub had the same vacant, suspiciously innocent eyes as a husky. Pure, clear, and absolutely hiding something behind them. Chad immediately fell in love. Erha's paws are white. Is this even a wolf? This is clearly a husky that got lost. Erha isn't stupid. He just realized that being obedient means free food and zero forehead flicks. That's genius. Now, fish traps. Hadn't checked them in 2 days. Pulled up the first one and nearly dropped it. 5 pounds of fish thrashing around inside. 1 trap. 2 days. The lake was basically a vending machine. 3 traps total, roughly 15 pounds of fish. Plus a turtle that had wandered in. An actual turtle. I held it up and grinned like I'd won the lottery. Turtle soup tonight, baby. But 15 pounds of fish created a new problem. Too much food. I couldn't eat it all. Smoking it was an option, but the traps caught fish every day. I couldn't smoke fish forever. Then it hit me. A fish pond. Dig a pool near the lake, stock it with live fish, and boom, living refrigerator. Fish stay fresh until I'm hungry. They breed. They multiply. By winter, I'd have an all-you-can-eat sushi bar that restocked itself. I'm literally inventing aquaculture. In a survival game. On week 1, breakfast was boiled fish with kudzu. I mashed some cooked fish into paste for the cubs. Erha sniffed it politely, then devoured it happily. Big Gray lunged for it, like a feral gremlin. Training time. I reached for Big Gray's food bowl. He growled. Smack. Forehead flick. Reached again. Growl. Smack. Reached again. No growl. Just wide, fearful eyes and a slow retreat. Good boy. Lesson learned. In wolf packs, the alpha eats first, and nobody touches food without permission. I was establishing pack hierarchy, 1 forehead flick at a time. Big Gray's taming progress. 12%, 22%. Erha. Never growled once. Just sat there being adorable, eating whatever I gave him, wagging his tiny tail when I patted his head. His progress went from 28% to 32% overnight, just from existing near me peacefully. You're a natural-born pet. Erha. He wagged harder. This wolf had the soul of a golden retriever. Smoked meat check. The overnight deer jerky was perfect. Dry surface, rich aroma, spiced with cinnamon and green onion fragrance. Tore off a piece and chewed. Concentrated meat flavor with a warm, complex finish. No salt, but honestly, didn't even miss it. I set a new standard. All future batches follow this recipe. Swapped in the wolf meat for the next smoking round. Morning exercise completed. Day 6 of the streak. 1 more day until my first physical enhancement bonus. Then I headed out to find a good spot for my fish pond. Walked along the lake for 30 minutes scanning the terrain. Didn't find the perfect pond location yet. But I did find more duck eggs just lying in the grass. Because at this point, the wilderness was basically a supermarket that restocked every time I turned my back. Somewhere behind me, 2 wolf cubs were in my underground bunker. One plotting revenge, one wagging its tail at a wall, while a smoking pit churned out artisanal jerky and 4 fish traps silently filled with tomorrow's breakfast. Day 9. Pet owner. Fish farmer. Master chef. Still the #1 ranked hunter on the entire planet with 92 points. Life was pretty good for a guy who started this game, standing in a field grinning like a broken robot. I walked along the lake for 30 minutes looking for a good fish pond location and found absolutely nothing useful. Just duck eggs. Which, at this point, was like finding spare change. Nice, but not what I came for. The problem was simple. A fish pond needs flowing water. Still water goes stagnant, loses oxygen, and kills everything in it. I needed a stream or river feeding into whatever pool I dug. But every decent water source was too far from home.